All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Monday night's Carnivore Talk discussion, where you too can be a part of the program. We would love to have you on screen, along with the four of us that you see here already. There's a link posted in the top of the chat.
That's me.
Okay. I hear an echo. There's a link posted in the top of the chat if you're on YouTube. And if you click that link, it'll take you over. It just works on a browser on any device. And you'll be on screen with those of us here. I'm going to share it again in case you're over on Twitter, not Twitter, X or Facebook. And yeah, feel free to join us on screen. That would be great. Also, we look forward to interacting with you in the comments. I'd just like to say right away that if you have any questions, we do get to all questions in the chat eventually. So sometimes we get way behind on addressing the chat and we have to play catch up. So if you have a question, preface it with a Q, put a question mark at the end. My program will highlight it that way. And we promise we will answer the question. And if you are waiting and you have to go, we understand, come back and watch it on replay and we'll address your question. So we thank you for those who ask questions and who show great patience with us. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all of you here as viewers. We're going to talk about diabetes today and how a carnivore diet can help manage that. But before we do, let's say hi to those that were on the screen already. We're going to start today with Amy Brisket Boomers. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just figured I ought to be here if you're going to be talking about diabetes. Do you want me to introduce myself or?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I've been a type 1 diabetic for 55 years. I was diagnosed at age 16. That means I'm 61. I mean, 71. I couldn't even get the words out. I'm 71. I'm going to be 72 in July. I've been a carnivore for 7 years. And I do pretty well on carnivore with the type 1 diabetes.
All right, very nice. And I'm going to post a link to Amy's channel right now in the chat. So you can go over there and you can check out more content from her and show her some support by subscribing to her channel. And so, yeah, we look forward to hearing more about how you manage type 1 with a carnivore diet. And now we'll go over to Paul. How are you doing today?
Doing good. I'll just say over the last week, Amy, I've watched about 4 of your interviews with the top doctors in the carnivore world over the last week. It was very interesting, and I'm doing well. And my CGM just recorded in the last 24 hours, I've fallen below 100 milligrams per deciliter on my blood sugar level for 7 days continuous. That's the lowest I've ever been, probably since I was a kid. And I've been diabetic for like 35 years almost. Type 2, but I react and lean towards a type 1. And doctor's going to try to figure all that out in the next couple of weeks with lab tests.
All right. Very nice. Nice to have you here, Paul. And Jeff, how are you doing today? How are things down in Texas?
I am doing great. The weather is fantastic, and I'm having a good time. Working on my place. I will announce one little thing. So the last week, I had a CT scan that had been scheduled for over a year to check a nodule on my lungs. I worked in a very, very bad environment for 40 years of my career. And a lot of people have died of lung cancer. A lot of my friends have died of lung cancer from working out where I worked. And so anyways, during a X-ray or an MRI X-ray, whatever, for something else entirely, they spotted a nodule on my lungs. And so they wanted to check it out. So they checked it out. they didn't think it was cancerous. They didn't think it was any big deal. And it seemed to be mobile. So they said, all right, we don't think you're in any risk or anything, but we want to check in a year. So my year was up. I've changed doctors and everything. So I had to get everything sent to my new doctor and all. So they go ahead and do a new CT scan. And good news, nodule's not there. So whatever it was, it's gone. I coughed it up, got absorbed in my body. Who knows? And so that's great news. But there's always a but, isn't there? I do have a thoracic aneurysm. So now we got to figure out what we're going to do there. Now it's small. Probably just needs to be monitored. But it's definitely something that we got to pay attention to and monitor it for growth. If it gets big enough, I'll end up having to have surgery on it. But from what I've researched, it appears that that something like this takes a long time to grow if you take care of it, and I may never have to have anything done about it. We'll just have to see. But right now it's small. We're going to try to keep it from growing anymore. Of course, the downside to that is one of the things they tell you not to do is any kind of heavy lifting. And that's almost impossible for me. I mean, I've got to do, I've got a farm. I got hard work to do. And I'm hitting the gym 3 days a week and I'm pushing myself. I'm hitting the weights hard because I'm fighting sarcopenia, and I'm trying to build muscle back up. And so, I got a meeting with the doctor at the end of the week, and we'll see what our game plan is from there. But hopefully, it ain't going to burst anytime soon. I don't think it will. They said it's small, but just got to be monitored. So,
that's a
latest health update.
That's an aorta, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's the aorta, the main artery going through your body that feeds the rest of your body. Okay. So what it is, there's a bulge in it. There's an aneurysm in it, and it's small. And it could be due to so many different things, and one of them being on the list, plaque buildup. Now, in the past, I've had nuclear stress tests and everything else, and they've checked out my heart, and they said my heart was clean. My arteries were clean. So I'm not too concerned about it being a plaque buildup or anything like that. But even if it was, I still think I'm doing the best diet there is for preventative. Mm-hmm. If anything, it's probably I strained myself at one time or another would be my best guess. So anyhow, back to the diabetes. It's more important than what I got going on.
Yeah, you mentioned the weather being great here in Ohio. It actually broke 70. So we've gone from unusually low frigid temperatures to now unseasonably high, teasing us with summer temperatures. It's been absolutely
70. Beautiful. I'm still a little chilled at that. We're hitting the 80s here, and it's comfortable to me.
Very good. So diabetes is our topic. We'll say hi to the chat in a little bit, but we'll go ahead and dive into our topic right away because that's the proper way to do things, and we never do them the proper way. So we're going to do that. So obviously, type 2 diabetes is driven by insulin resistance, and there's many reasons why a carnivore diet, and if you're listening to this channel, you're probably on a carnivore diet. We're on a carnivore diet, are interested in a carnivore diet that's eating exclusively or nearly exclusively animal products, whether that's beef, chicken, fish, some dairy, cheese. And the idea is that you eat zero carbohydrates, but nothing from plants. And there's a reason why this has an effect on diabetes. There's several mechanisms. The primary one that should be obvious is that there's just dramatic reduction in dietary carbohydrates. So because what causes diabetes, or what should I should specify type 2 diabetes. what's the problem when it comes to diabetes? And that's blood sugar control. You eat a bunch of carbs, your blood sugar goes up. In a normal person, your pancreas should release insulin to help drive that down. And when you have type 2 diabetes, you don't produce enough insulin to quite handle the job. So your blood sugars always run high. And if you have type 1 diabetes, from what I understand, you don't produce insulin at all. Do I need corrected on any of this so far? So we've got
well, my understanding of type 2 is more that in the beginning, you're producing too much insulin, but your cells aren't receptive to it.
Okay.
So that's the biggest difference. Now, if you've had it for a long time and you haven't changed your diet, reduced your carbs, then you might eventually wear out your pancreas where it can't produce as much insulin. But in the beginning, it's an overproduction of insulin.
And your cells not being receptive, isn't that the definition of insulin resistance?
Yeah, it's the same. Type 2 is insulin resistance.
Right.
Yeah.
Gone to a certain level that they say.
Yeah. Now I was
it's type 2.
Diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance. I was pre-diabetic, but not type 2 diabetic, and was never dependent on insulin. And that's probably why I was maybe confused, as I was under the impression that in both cases, individuals had to take insulin because they weren't producing enough insulin. So, but I knew what you're saying is at the beginning, well, I did say insulin resistance drives diabetes, so it does start off that way. And so by reducing your carbohydrates, you have much flatter, blood glucose curves, and your need for insulin is dramatically reduced. Now, as a type 1, we hear about type 2 all the time because that's more common. But as a type 1, and a lot of individuals who have been on type 2 who had type 2 diabetes have been able to reduce their blood sugars, reverse or put into remission, choose your terminology, their diabetes, to the point where they're able to get off their diabetes medications and you get off their insulin by getting their A1C down into more of an acceptable range. As a type 1, that's not something you can actually fully do, is it?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
So I have known a few people who had been diagnosed and were able to get off of insulin. It's very rare. So there's one woman who was from, I think I've mentioned her before on the chat here. She lives in New Zealand, and she was a type 1 diabetic for 13 years, but she had a lot of other autoimmune conditions. And so she was on insulin for 13 years. When she went full carnivore, all the other autoimmune conditions improved and her type 1 diabetes went away. She's been my model of, because I've always wanted to try to figure out how to heal. There's been a few other people that I know through Facebook groups. Usually they are people who were diagnosed after the age of 25, and they may have been LADA, or they may have been misdiagnosed, or we don't really know. But so they were on insulin and then they were able to get off. And there's been a few children who have so when you're first diagnosed, especially as a child, you are on this thing called the honeymoon, and you're still producing a little bit of insulin. So if your parents know about the carnivore diet or some other mode of like very low carb or some kind of supplements or therapies that help with autoimmune diseases, sometimes those kids don't ever have to go on insulin, but that's also extremely rare. And I've been trying to heal for about 50 years. And, you know, I just recently so every time I go on the lion diet, which I've done 3 different times, did it for 3.5 months, and then I did it for 3 months, then I did it for a month, and the last one I did January and February. My insulin requirements do go down. So right after, like on March 2nd, I had a C-peptide test. Now, C-peptide is the measurement of something that is produced when you produce insulin. So it's a test to see whether you have type 1 or type 2, because sometimes there's a confusion between the two. So if your C-peptide level is very low, then you have type 1 diabetes because you're not producing insulin. So I had a C-peptide test on the 2nd. I just wanted to see if maybe it would go up if I was on the lion diet. Like maybe I was producing a little bit, but it went down. So that didn't work. But
you say you've been a carnivore now for 7 years,
yeah,
and obviously 7 years is quite the track record. That would imply that you've definitely seen benefits by going carnivore if you've committed to it for 7 years, right?
yes. I've reduced my insulin, but only by a little bit, because I've been low carb for 30 years, or very low carb. So I found Bernstein 30 years ago. So I went very low carb, and then I went keto with 20 grams or less in 2010. So I was keto for 8 years before carnivore in 2018. So I only was able to reduce my insulin by a little bit, like a couple of units. I'm on very little. I mean, I'm on like 10 to 12 units of insulin, which isn't very much for a type 1 diabetic. But I've had other physical improvements that I enjoy. So I stay on it. And I stay on it because there's more, you know, it's like I had the floaters in my eyes went away, and they were like, I could barely see. I had so many floaters. They went away. And then I had ear pain when we were on an airplane. Ear pain on an airplane. And that went away. Which is a really big deal, because it was so bad that I would cry the whole time I was on an airplane. It was all horrible. But that went away. So those were the two big things but the other thing is I like the carnivore diet. I like that I don't have to cut vegetables up, even though I used to love them. I like the ease of shopping. I like being in this community. And I also feel like I want to stay out, you know, the avoidance of dementia. As you get older, you think about those kind of things. You know, I'm 71. I don't want to lose my brain. You know, and both of my parents died young. So, you know, I've got, you know, I just want to do the best I can for my body. So that's why I stay carnivore. But I also, I enjoy taking less insulin. And I think for anybody, that's really important, because we all have been listening to like Ben Bickman and all those guys that talk about that high levels of insulin is bad for everybody. It's the same for me. If I have to take a lot of insulin, it's just as bad as if I'm producing a lot and getting negative effects from that.
All right. Very nice. So my wife just brought me a hamburger. So all right. Okay. Well, very good. So yeah, so that makes sense then. You've been low carbing it for quite a long time. Yeah. And so you've known for quite a long time, and through Dr. you said Bernstein, was that it? Right?
Yeah. Dr. Richard Bernstein. Paul was talking about him last week.
Yes. Yeah. We looked him up. So yeah.
He
So,
died
yeah.
last year at 90.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice age. You mentioned
Yeah.
your age, and I have a relative who's in her early 70s and is starting to deal with Alzheimer's, and it's like, wow, that's so young. So, and so yeah, any kind of low carbohydrate diet, is going to be beneficial for you, and in many cases, the lower the better, like carnivore. And so, Paul, who you've also been dealing with diabetes in one form or another for quite some time, haven't you?
May 4th, 1992.
That's when you were
Got the
diagnosed?
diagnosis and
Mhm.
type 2, and I did a lot of my own personal research, and I had a lot of good intents, but I never really, I guess my life was just so stressful. I was the only wage earner in my family. I had 3 kids. I had a kid to get through cancer, wound up divorced, had to get 3 kids out into the world. And eventually, I'm allergic to most diabetic medications. I just don't do well with most of them that are any good. And so I wound up on insulin, but I wound up on the wrong insulins. And again, I was just so stressed out. I didn't really have time to think about it. Tried to explain it to the doctor. I go, I can't control my blood sugar, And I'm sure they were convinced I was just eating all the wrong stuff. And I sort of was and sort of wasn't. But, it was 5 years ago. I turned 65. So, I qualified for Medicare, had regular insurance, started my health journey. And it was an endocrinologist that he said a few things to me, and he mentioned that he was eating a very low carb diet of 20 carbs a day. And I thought, go home and Google that, Paul. And it's kind of where I got started on low carb. And in 14 months, I was at 0 carbs. And the last 8 months, I've been serious 0 carb. I mean, I went through Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's Day with no carbs. Okay. I think that's the first time I've ever done that. And no cake, no candy, no nothing. And, I go back to my childhood. I had an anxiety-filled childhood, I think. And my comfort was carbohydrates, and that's just who I was and what I was and the way I lived. And so now I'm at the point where I go for blood work Friday morning, and I'm going to do another C-peptide, see where that's at. Going to do, I forget what it's called, but it's one of the 3 enzyme tests they do to see if your body's attacking your pancreas, which would lead to a diagnosis of LADA. Sometimes it's called type 1.5 diabetes.
You're testing for antibodies?
Not maybe I got my terms wrong. Enzyme.
Really? I think you're testing antibodies, the GAD antibodies.
Yeah. I'm without looking at getting out my medical notebook, I could have easily misspoke.
That's all right. I just looked it up.
Oh, okay. There's like 3. They do the GAD first, and then if that is shaky or doesn't give a clear indication, there's 2 other ones they can do. And so I just want to kind of know where I'm at or what I really am. Just won't make any difference in anything really, because I'm 0 carb, and the way it's going to be for sometime into the future anyhow. But I've, you know, my insulin in the last 8 months has gone from 66 units a day down to 20.
That's
Of
amazing.
zero. Yeah, so that's about when you look at the people on carnivore diets and with type 1 diabetes, that's usually about their insulin reduction. You know, it's like Bernstein describes it as the law of small numbers. You know, you got a real steep peak. You get these. Tell you what, these insulins they make nowadays are extremely powerful. There's some that are extremely powerful, and they made them even more concentrated so that you only take half the shot you normally would take. And so some insulins are twice as powerful as other insulins. And, you know, I am not even sure. This last week, I went back and I had a restudy. You know, I went to college, if you will, went to insulin college, you know, identified all the different types of insulin and how fast they start affecting your blood sugar, how long when do they peak, and when do they tail out. And, you know, right at this moment, I have 4 different insulins available to me, and I've been kind of experimenting and stuff. And yeah, I've got questions from I see endocrinologists in like 3 weeks. On Friday, the 3rd of April, I go see endocrinologist. I got a short list of questions for him. You know, it says, what is the best insulin? You know, what should my insulin be? You know, which one? How often? I've kind of worked it out, but I'm not 100% sure. Think I'm doing what's best, but and I guess what it really shows you is when you look at the CGM, how even. This is my interpretation of it. I could be all wrong, but how even that blood sugar line is. You know, and you know, and I've been there before. I've had, but you read, and you know, Bernstein's got. You go online and look at the videos. I don't know. He's got. I know there's one section of 48 videos he's got. They last about 10 minutes each. That's his university, and then he's got a lot of other interviews out there. And you know, Bernstein doesn't even agree with the American Diabetes Association and how you convert an A1C back to glucose or vice versa. He has a more stringent formula than what they use, and he disagreed. You know, he had no problem calling him out on it, and I think he's right in my opinion. But I'm kind of in his camp. But he was ostracized by much of the medical profession. I'm sure some thought he was a little batty, but the guy was, in my opinion, quite brilliant. Started out a career in physics, and then, you know, decide if you really want to argue with doctors and really do some good, you got to be a doctor. And he was 44? I think he was 44 when he got his MD. He was an old man, doctor-wise. He was an old man. I'm sure he took a lot of crap, and I've read quite a bit about his history, and I can't remember all the things that I've read, but I think he even had some other issues too, or I may be confusing him with somebody else.
I think you mentioned he was ostracized by the mainstream medical community, and it seems to me that all the good doctors are. All the doctors that I think were onto something and spoke the truth. You know, you mentioned Dr. Bernstein, which I'm not too familiar with, but I still hold Dr. Atkins in high regard, along with a lot of the modern doctors that we see on YouTube today that we're all fans of. Modern medicine looks at them as a bunch of crazy people, but yet these are the people that I've listened to and have completely turned my health around for the better. So,
yeah. And you know, there's a video. I'm sorry. There's a video out there right now with Chafee, Baker, Kiltz, and Barry, all in one video. And it's about some weird aspect of type 2 of diabetes and how fat can affect your blood sugar. Okay, it's well, I can't really explain it. You got to kind of listen to it, and they make a good point in conclusion. They say, we're all under this big bell curve, and there are people that are way out on the tails, and they have to probably be treated differently than the ones under the peaks of the bell curve. And so, even though carnivore is good, it's not perfect for everybody. Okay, it's probably better than anything else, and sometimes some of the carnivores need a little modification. And they all kind of agreed that 10, 15, 20, 30 carbs a day might help some people on carnivore. And you notice they had very small numbers. And Bernstein was kind of unsure about the value of vegetables, okay? So he said, we'll do 25 carbs a day. I think that's what he's at 30 a day.
30.
Yeah, 30. Yeah. Like 6, 12, 12. Yeah, that's what it was. 6 at breakfast, 12 at lunch, 12 at dinner. That was it. And you realize how far ahead of his time this guy was? He was way ahead of the ballpark. But he was right,
Yeah.
And when you look at, have you seen that young man who's at Baylor right now in Texas? He's in the pre-med program down there, 19 years old. He was a friend of Bernstein. They were buddies, okay?
Who, Dave Dykman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just that, and there's two parents that really went the mile. Let me tell you, their boy was 9 years old, type 1 diabetic. The whole family went low carb. The whole family. The dad said, "If you got to do it, I'll do it." So they all went low carb.
All right. I've been starring some comments here. The first one here that I saw is actually directed for Amy. It says, do you know Paul Medeiros?
I know a Paul Maddow. I think it's Madau. I'm not sure. I don't know the Paul Met.
Okay.
No, but I think he might be talking about, it might be somebody I do know. He's in the type 1 diabetic carnivores Facebook group. And I think he was doing carnivore for a little while. And I've heard him on a couple of podcasts.
So maybe, Amy, if you're still listening, maybe clarify that. Maybe you're talking about the same person.
Yeah, probably
All right.
are. Probably is.
Uncle Charlie says, just left Ken Berry's show. He's getting overrated. I like Ken Berry a lot. So in fact, I was watching him before I went live. So I watched him from about 7 to 7:30. Then I went downstairs and changed and got ready. But he was talking about weight loss myths today, him and Nisha. Snake Diet was telling people to go on a sugar diet. Shake my head. So yeah, that Snake Diet guy is a snake. It's kind of a fitting name for him. I thought his channel got removed. I don't know. He started every video just yelling at his audience,
You're talking about Cole Robinson?
Yeah, he calls his audience fatties and stuff like that, and he's always screaming. And but you certainly don't want to go on a sugar diet if you have diabetes. That'd be the last thing you want to do. Coach Eden stayed on Dr. Berry's for 5 minutes. He's great for newbies. He is. So, and when I was a newbie, that's the whole reason I'm in this community right now is from Dr. Berry. So I told the folks in Dr. Berry chat that I was going to watch Carnivore Talk Show. Hopefully some find us here. Well, thanks for the plug. We appreciate it. Tom, it was actually going to join us on screen today. That's why I had his little face in the thumbnail, but he's got a headache. So Tom, I hope you're kicking it and relaxing, and I hope you feel better soon. Thanks for joining us in the chat, at least. Grandma G2, I reversed my type 2 diabetes from an A1C of 12 to 4.8 in 3 months. Wow.
That's amazing.
Now, with all the anti-rejection drugs after my kidney transplant, I'm experiencing a spike in my blood sugar, but will continue to monitor. That's right. You did just get a new kidney. All right. And sounds like everything's working out for you, though. So someday I might throw in the towel and get a new kidney, too. We'll see. Right now, I'm still fighting. So, all right. I met a type 1 who was carnivore on TikTok. He went back to carbs to build muscle. Well, I mean, to each their own, but he could have built muscle just fine without the carbs. So sticking with the carnivore diet. Anybody who thinks that you need to eat carbs to have a carnivore diet, or I'm sorry.
To get muscles?
To get muscles. Yeah, my brain froze there. Whoever thinks that you need to eat carbs in order to build muscle needs to look at Sean Baker and Anthony Chafee's channels.
Exactly.
The two of them are built like a tank, and they don't eat carbs at all. So, and the famous joke, diabetes, give it an inch and it'll take a foot. Pop Carnivore says, my type 2 diabetes went into remission after about 6 months on carnivore. Folks with longer term deceased, long diabetics. I don't think that's meant to say deceased.
No.
Take longer to see full or partial relief from even full remission or cure. You know, those with long-term, those who have long-term diabetes might take longer, who have had it for a long time, diagnosed with maybe. Yeah. All right.
Sarah Hallberg showed that in her study, 500 people who were type 2 diabetics. Those who 8.4 years was kind of like the breaking point. Those who were diagnosed type 2 diabetic under 8.4 years, within a year or two, they were able to control their blood sugars with their low carb carnivore diet. And those who were over 8.4 years, it took them longer, 3 or 4 years. So it's, before I started any of this, I was like, I don't know, 28 years or 29 years, something like that. And
excuse me, I'm stuffing my face. Trying to eat that hamburger.
bro, eat that burger, enjoy, golly,
It's pretty good. It's pretty good, except for this stuff that's all over it.
Oh, no. Your wife still gives you lettuce?
She got it at a restaurant down the street. It just opened. So she asked for it without a bun. So
I got to run, get some insulin in me.
okay. So Papa Carnivore was saying that, this next comment here. That's what happened to his late father-in-law. Lost a finger, then another, then his toes, then a foot, then both legs, then on dialysis for 7 years. Diabetes is no joke. And yeah, that's true. It can take you apart piece by piece if you don't make any changes here. I'm glancing up at my other chat window to see if maybe if Amy responded or not, but I don't see it. All right. Here's an interesting comment from Tom, Target Prime Rib. The issue is that the recommendation for type 2 is more insulin. And although it does lower the sugars at the time, the more insulin we add, the more damage we occur. That's interesting. So it's kind of like many things. You got the catch-22 there. All
You
right.
know, once you put on that CGM and you see how quickly carbohydrates spike your blood sugar, okay? Now, if you're a type 2, you're going to try to take insulin and you're going to try to match that peak. Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
And very difficult thing to do. If you miss it either way, you're going to have serious case of low blood sugar. Okay? That can be dangerous. And there's nothing worse than low blood sugar episode. There's nothing worse. It's bad. I have bitten through the plastic of wrap crackers, those little 6-pack of crackers. I've bitten right through the plastic. I've taken a candy bar and bit right through the wrapper. Didn't even bother to open it. Ate it wrapper and all. It's a bad thing.
Hypoglycemic. That's what they call that,
Yep.
right? When your blood sugar's too low.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hypo.
It's not fun.
I have a high school friend who's a type 1 diabetic, and well, we were friends in high school, so I talked to him here and there as an adult. But he wears a device that's like constantly plugged into his abdomen that releases insulin, I think, on timed intervals. Either that or it's got a sensor, and it releases when it senses that it needs to. And I've seen him post on Facebook about times where, you know, his blood sugars will crash and he absolutely has to go like have a candy bar or something to kind of bring them back up to normal, because it's actually bad for his sugars to be really low. So I can understand.
It's bad for anybody's sugar. I mean, as a type 1 diabetic, you can actually pass out if your blood sugars go too low. It's never happened to me, but it happens to a lot of people. So you got to be really careful. And that's the beauty of the law of small numbers. Because if you're eating like a full carb meal and you need 16 units of insulin for the meal, and you've miscalculated by about 20%, you could pass out and die. Basically, insulin can kill you. So when you're eating a very small carb meal or no carb meal, you only need a couple of units of insulin, which could never kill you or make you pass out, even if you miscalculate by some. Like I miscalculated on my supper and my blood sugar went up, but you know, I just took some insulin to take care of that. So hopefully I'll be okay. But yeah.
Lexus says, I know there's a lot of controversy around it, but I decided to start a GLP-1 when I reached 200 pounds. The weight gain binging has been crazy, and I feel like I'm losing my mind. And so, I mean, that's your prerogative. I don't see, I see certain use case scenarios where someone could be prescribed a GLP-1 to get started, but the goal should be to get off of it, you know. So you know, that could get someone started, but they have to still learn to change their diet, you know. So if you're going up on the weight, you know, and you want to take a GLP-1 to try and curb that hunger or something, that's fine. And I know in a later comment you're talking about how you're struggling sticking to keto or carnivore, and but that is the fight, unfortunately, you know. So you know, you go off the GLP-1s, if you're still eating carbs, you're going to return right back to the same issue again. You know, if someone wants to use that as a tool to try and get their appetite under control and to start losing weight, I think that's fine, with the goal of getting off of it, because the goal is still to learn how to eat a proper human diet, as Ken Berry would say. And that doesn't have to be carnivore. It could be ketovore, it could be therapeutic keto, it could be low carb, somewhere on that spectrum, as he calls it. But you know, you got to stay away from the man-made stuff. You know, you got to stay away from the candy, you got to stay from the Doritos, stay away from pasta and breads and croissants and the goodies and those things that are so addictive that we all love. And there's not a person here that isn't going to honestly say that they didn't cherish those foods at one time. You know, we may have lost our taste for it now, but you know, we could easily become hooked again. But you got to get away from those things. So, you know, if you take a GLP-1, you know, remember that's still no substitute for eating a proper human diet. So
I was at one time on a introductory dose of Ozempic for diabetes, not to lose weight, but to control diabetes. And it was the introductory doses. I can't remember how they dose that stuff, but I think it was 1/4 gram. It's very small. And I felt it took the edge off from, you know, I got to have 2 candy bars and 3 donuts now. You know, it took the edge off, helped me get through those cravings. And I was doing pretty well on it until they doubled the dose. And then I went from okay to I had to get off it. I had to quit it. I had no desire to eat whatsoever. And couldn't make myself swallow food. I don't know if it was psychological or just, I don't know what it was, but I got off it, never went back. But that's the problem with the GLP-1s is there's no coach there to bring these people along to the direction they got to go. But how many people in the medical world think like we do? Not many at all. So who's going to help them?
no, and in the medical world, when they give you a prescription for something, they're prescribing it to you for life. You know, every blood pressure med, every cholesterol med, every triglyceride med, and now the GLP-1s, it's here, take this, and it's like a royalty or a subscription. You know, you got to keep renewing it every month, and that's the thing with those GLP-1s is if you get off of it and you haven't learned how to eat a proper human diet, you're just going to undo all your progress if you made any progress. I think the other problem with the GLP-1s is they're new, so there's no data on what happens to a person in the long term on these things. So, you know, it's been out for a few years. We see people on it for short term with mixed results. Some people absolutely are loving it. Other people are like, oh, their stomach got paralyzed. They're having these after effects. Like you got a class action lawsuit. You know, it's just like anything else. It works for some people. Other people, you know, it does horrible things too. But there's no long-term data. So, you know, my philosophy is you got to try and live like a human being was meant to live. And you weren't meant to take GLP-1s, and you weren't meant to eat Doritos, you know, and fast food and milkshakes and desserts. And, you know, so, you know, none of that's proper human diet. So, let's see here. There's an interesting YouTube video by Dr. Elizabeth Bright. She says any protein consumed beyond what your body needs for its raw materials converted to glucose. I'm eating way more. So I know there's a lot of differing opinions on this. You see Paul shaking his head. He listens to Professor Bart K on this, and I mean I like Professor Bart K. He's a very intelligent guy. However, I can say that if I sit here and wolf down a high protein meal and I'm low on the fat, like chicken breast, okay? If I wolf down a couple chicken breasts, I will be heavy on the scaler. I will be heavier on the scale tomorrow morning. So that seems to be true for me. If I overconsume protein, I gain weight. So
if I overconsume protein, my blood sugar will go way up.
Right. And
I'll need a lot more insulin.
And so think about that. What is the cause? What would be the cause for me to gain weight and for her blood sugar to skyrocket? It's in the name,
Well-
blood sugar, you know, so it's the protein being converted to glucose. So I would have to agree with Elizabeth Bright, and I would have to disagree with Bart K in this instance. So,
Well, I've not just heard it from Bart K. I've heard it from a lot of medical doctors, and I know from my CGM and my, obviously I'm carnivore. I eat a lot of protein. Not I don't eat excessive protein, but I have a full protein diet. And let's just say I have a donut. I've seen this on my CGM. It goes up, and for me, it takes a while to come down. Okay. When I eat meat, it's like the Appalachian Mountains. It's a hill. It's a gradual incline. Now that incline goes on for a long time. 5, 6 hours, go on for 5, 6 hours. Protein takes a long time to digest, takes a long time to work its way into your bloodstream. And I don't know, I'm interested with Amy. Do you dose your insulin according to Bernstein's guidelines for protein or not?
Pretty close, but not usually. Like he has a certain formula, like every ounce is one. I can't remember exactly, but
Like
I
half
don't
a
take
unit or
quite.
something.
I think it's every 3 ounces is 2 units of insulin or something like that. But that would be too much for me. I'd be 2 units of insulin. Well, I'd be 1.5 units of insulin for 6 ounces of protein.
That's
It
not
would be
much
too much
insulin
for
to
me,
cover
but
your head.
I'm skinny, and I think it might be different because I'm a woman. I don't know. But I mean, he was a tiny little man.
Hey,
So I think I'd just be a little bit less insulin. But I don't think it actually converts to glucose. What I've heard is that it causes the liver to produce glycogen, which is glucose, which I don't really understand the science part of that, but that might be what the disagreement is. I don't know, because it's not actually converted to glucose, but it does make your body produce more glucose.
just like when I exercise, when I do some exercise, my blood sugar will go up. I'm burning energy. Okay, so somewhere's in my body, it says Paul needs this glucose because he's lifting weights or whatever. It doesn't go up a lot. When you're digesting meat, your body's working out. It takes a lot of energy to digest meat. This is what I understand from the research I've done. So you get a normal rise in your blood sugar. A lot of it's due to the digestive process. And that's just how I understand it at the moment. Your body takes a lot of things go through the liver and get made into glucose. It's not just protein. There's various amino, I can't remember all the different things I've read about, but that's kind of how it works. And I'm so new to some of this stuff. I'm treating myself now as a type 1 diabetic. That's the way and my theory is that, well, what I've heard, I think Bernstein may have said this, I don't know. I've heard it said that whatever's good for a type 1 diabetic usually is good for any diabetic, okay? Less carbs is good.
Yeah, and like those whole families with one type 1, the whole family gets healthy. When they all go carnivore. I mean, they all go low carb and they all get healthy, not just the type 1 diabetic.
Yeah, the first year, the mom and dad lost like 80 pounds combined.
All righty. Let me star here so I don't lose my place. Very good. How you doing over there, Jeff?
I'm doing just fine.
All right. Did you see Kurt's in the chat tonight?
Yeah, I did.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was rude.
Oh, was he? I haven't got that
Yeah,
far.
he barked in the chat. I told him to excuse himself.
Oh, I just saw him in the chat. I was just going to say it was good to see him. I haven't seen him in such a long time. All right. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Is it possible that I have pre-diabetes, but my metformin is masking it? My fasting glucose on the SAD diet is 95 to 98. So technically, yes, it's possible. Is it likely? I don't know in your case, but yeah, that can lower the medicine can lower the blood sugar, but you still have the issue with insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome. So yeah, it could mask it. So, let's see here. Latro suggests ditching the standard American diet before you wind up in big trouble. I concur. Staying out of type 2 diabetes is the key. A1C is not the indicator you should look at. It's fasting insulin and 2 hours after eating insulin.
That's not what they meant.
Okay. So did I read that wrong?
No, you read it right,
Okay.
but they didn't mean after eating insulin. You don't eat insulin.
Oh, okay.
They meant
after eating, period.
Right.
After eating food. Okay. I get it. All right. So yeah, I mean, A1C is, it's a good marker to look at, but he is right. Your fasting insulin is also one's a measure of now, one's a kind of an average of the last 3 months. So Peter, even when I'm full, I still have cravings, and on a carnivore diet, I can't eat enough to feel full. So, who you might want to talk to is actually Rockin' Coach Amy. She was having a similar issue of just finding it impossible to eat to satiety when she first started carnivore. And I don't know how she's doing now. Maybe if she's in the chat, she can tell us how she's doing, or join us on screen because she's been on here on the past before. But that's someone who you could talk to. Had the same problem. Just tried to go carnivore and could, for some reason, they could eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and their brain would never tell them that they're full and to stop eating. They just continued to crave food. So
Amy just came on and said, "I'm still having that issue, Bob."
Okay. All right.
Capitalized B-O-B.
Well, so sorry you're still having that issue. So that's when, what can we do to get your hunger signals to work again? Eating a carnivore diet, tracking, so if your body doesn't tell you to stop, because that's what we say eat until you feel comfortably full. But if you never feel comfortably full, then obviously that's not the advice for you. So then now you might want to actually track and keep a record of the portions that you're eating, so
yeah, she's really struggling, and my heart goes out to her for this. I've had those moments when I couldn't get full, when I binged, but fortunately they're not every time I eat. It's just every once in a great while. And it's usually my opinion, as far as me, I'm lacking something. There's something missing in my diet. Is the only thing I can figure why I'll get those binges. And maybe it's just a carryover from from my sad days. Because I used to be a bad carb binger. I mean, I could go to the store and I could buy a whole box of cheeses and sit down and eat the whole stinking box. And I'm talking the big family box, a whole bag of Doritos. I was a bad binger, really bad. And maybe it's a holdover from that, but I kind of feel like if your body is craving something, it's because you're lacking something. Your body's smarter than you are, smarter than you give it credit for, at least. And what you got to do is try to find out what it is that you're lacking, what your body's needing. Maybe it's fat, maybe it's protein, and maybe it is a little bit of whole natural carb. I don't know. Each person's different, so you got to find your own path.
If it's a particular nutrient, then you might want to try and eat a variety. Eat the rainbow of meats, as they say. If you're going to try to do carnivore, make sure you have some seafood, and you have some chicken, and you have some beef, and you have a little like beef liver, maybe a couple times a month or something like that. So try and make sure you're getting a well-rounded nutritional profile so that you're not lacking anything.
Yeah.
I mean, in a worst case scenario, you can take a multivitamin. You should be able to get most of what you need from food. But the vitamin ain't gonna hurt you any. It's just usually unnecessary for someone who's on a proper human diet. So
Lexi says she's tried everything. She's tried to eat until she's full. She just doesn't get full. She can't stop the cravings. I wish I could meet her in person and spend a day or a week with her, just to see what could be done to help her see what it is she's doing, and see if there's something that she's missing.
Well, she just had a birthday party and just turned 50. So she herself is.
Dang, she looks mighty fine for 50. Because
Lexus is 50?
No way.
No. I'm 50.
Rockanini's 50.
What's that?
No, Lexi.
Oh, I'm talking about.
We're talking about Lexi.
Rockanini.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think she's 50. She just had a birthday. She just turned 30.
That's right. Yeah, she was saying she's 29. I think she's entering her last year of her 20s.
Yeah. She mentioned that. I believe it was last week.
Yeah, she just said I'm 29, guys.
Yeah. But anyways, I wish I could do more to evaluate her and find out, why she's struggling. See if I could figure it out. Because it breaks my heart to see somebody struggling like this, especially when most of us don't struggle that much with it. We have a little struggle in the beginning, and then things straighten out for us, and it's just not happening for her. And I feel bad for her because of that, because I know she wants so bad, to be on the straight and narrow with this and have it work for her.
There she is.
Speaking of the devil.
There she is.
Hi, Amy. How you doing?
Hey.
So we talk about you, and poof, there you are.
That's probably why she came on to defend herself.
How you doing?
No, Lexus is not 50. No, I'm 50.
Okay.
Oh,
All
I
right,
can't
I was
hear you
confused.
guys. Hold on. What is going on?
Okay.
Hold on.
All right. Yeah. Now take your time. I'm gonna mark
There we
my- Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So I'm
Okay.
having a really bad day. I wasn't going to come on.
Oh, well, sorry. How about your bad day? Anything we
Since
can
you
do to
so
make
much-
it better?
Well, I learned a new word today.
What's that?
I'll tell you that in a minute, but I went to the doctor today, right? And I got so my hormone panel was now normal, which explains why I had such a hard time on my thyroid panel was normal, which is why I had such a terrible reaction to the armor, because I think Carnivore is reversing that. But I've confirmed I'm now in menopause, which I think my estrogen is very low, which I think that is what's causing me just to be uncontrollably hungry, right? And we discussed hormone replacement therapy, but that's not really an option because of the breast cancer that runs in my family. Now, they've had recent studies come out and say that the hormone replacement therapy does not cause the breast cancer, right? But here's the deal with that.
Did
If
for my
you-
sister.
If you are taking if you're taking estrogen and you get cancer, what do you think is going to feed that cancer? The estrogen that you are putting in your body. So we've decided, and here's the other thing. He still wants to do the BRCA gene testing. And I'm like, well, what's good of that? He's like, well, if you if it comes back positive, then you can go have a double mastectomy and just take care of the problem. I'm like, look, I've had 7 surgeries in the last 20 years. I'm just not in the mood to go get operated on again. I'm just not. I'm sorry. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll pray harder. I don't know. Something, that's no cancer. Maybe that's the answer. So that happened. Now, this part really frustrates me because when I get frustrated and upset, I'm not always the best communicator. But my cholesterol since going carnivore is like, I don't know, upwards of 400. I don't remember what the exact number is, right? But my ratio from triglycerides, my HDL shot up. I don't know, some crazy number like 80 or 90 or something. My HDL was like ridiculously good. Like like some unheard number, and my triglycerides were in range. It's the LDL. So we all know how the doctors go. And I thought this doctor was going to be different because he is an osteopath, right? He is an osteopathic doctor. But he put in my chart, he's like, look, I said, I really don't want to go on a statin, right? Thank you, but no thank you. And he's like, okay, so we're going to order you a CAC score, which surprised me. Most doctors don't do that. He's like, we're also going to order the ApoB, Apo little a, Apo B, whatever. Yeah, ApoB tests. So they're going to find out what type of particles I have in my cholesterol. So I was impressed with that, right? But then he said, if it comes back, if your CAC score comes back 300 or higher, you will go on a statin. And I'm like, I didn't say anything because they taught us in PhD and KILT's course to not argue with the doctors, right? Now, this is more from a coaching perspective when you're working with someone else as a client, but okay, don't lose your stuff. Don't lose your stuff right now. What you're going to do is you're going to buy him the book, The Cholesterol Myth by Steven Sinatra. You're going to buy him the book. There's Dr. Barry, both Dr. Barry and Dr. Kiltz has information. I'm going to print that out and I'm just going to hand it to him. I'm going to say, read this and we'll have another conversation the next time I see you. And that's my plan, right? Now,
Good plan.
I had a bad day at work. I had a meeting that went south, right? A customer lied and threw me under the bus in front of one of our senior vice presidents, and I couldn't say a word. Then my husband had this cyst that he's had for 10 years cut out of his head, right? The new doctor's like, that needs to come out and we need to test it. So they did. It tested like positive for 5 or 6 different strains of bacteria. So they put him on an antibiotic. They put him on 3 antibiotics, and he got antibiotic shots because of the infection. It was infected. Then he developed, I'm not going to go into details because it's kind of personal, but he developed another infection from those antibiotics. So then they started treating that with another antibiotic specifically for that infection. Then next thing you know, and I got the paper in front of me, but next thing you know, he started breaking out on rash all over his body. His feet started bleeding. He's got open sores in his mouth that are bleeding. Like yesterday, he came out of the bathroom and I thought he was spitting blood. I'm like, what is going on? He has something I've never heard of. It's called Stevens-Johnson syndrome. Have any of you ever heard of this? Stevens-Johnson syndrome.
It's familiar.
Not an allergic reaction. It is a side effect of medications. Now, granted, we don't know which one of these medications cause this. It's 1 of 5, and it can be fatal. Like, it's a reaction to medications, and if it's not taken care of, it can be fatal. So he was at the doctor, and he texted me this, and I lost it. I'm like, I'll be right there. So I clocked out of work. I went back to the doctor, and they had him hooked up to an IV bag. They were trying to prevent him from going straight to the ER, right? I'm actually very thankful this doctor recognized what this was immediately. And he hooked him up to a saline bag with steroids in it. and he has to go back tomorrow to get more. So that was my day. Anyway,
Whoa.
never heard of that. Stevens-Johnson syndrome.
Steven-Johnson syndrome. All right. Okay. Well,
Glad you got that load off.
yeah.
Man, you've had a rough one today.
God bless you.
Your
Amy.
husband,
All I can say
man.
is God bless you.
Oh.
Yeah, your husband's going through
Jesus.
the ringer.
All right. So we were talking about eating to satiety, and you said you still struggle with that too. I don't think she can. Maybe she can't hear us anymore.
I think she's frozen.
I
No.
No?
lost my headphones.
Amy. Or
Okay. No, I don't think
Sorry
she can hear us.
Rockin' Amy.
No, I can now. I had to fix something again.
Okay. All right. So we were talking about, Lexus or Lexi not being able to eat to satiety,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
just remembered you saying that you had that similar problem.
I
And,
do.
And you're still struggling with that, and what are you
I
doing
am.
to try and manage that?
Oh, I'm not doing very well. Let's just put
Uh-huh.
it that way. Mostly because, so I heard something interesting tonight on Dr. Barry. I don't know if you watched that, but I fast until noon. I
Mhm.
fast until noon, and then I have my first meal at noon, and it's usually like 4 eggs, couple pieces of bacon, and usually a Jones sausage patty or 2. And I eat that, and I'm still hungry after the last bite. And then I try not to eat again until like 4 or 5. And so a meal like that might consist of 2 burger patties, 4 eggs, a couple pieces of bacon, and a couple pats of butter on that, right? I fill the plate up. And usually I eat that, and I'm still hungry after that. And then I try not to eat again until the next day, right? But then usually what happens is I work my job during the day, and then at night I'm working on the coaching business, I'm working on the YouTube channel, I'm doing a bunch of things, and then it gets to be like 9 or 10 o'clock, and I'm like starving. Like, I'm not talking about like a craving, like, oh, just drink some water, right? I'm like, no, I was still hungry after I put that last bite in my mouth. There's no eat until comfortably full for me, right? There used to be. I used to be able to starve myself and be fine, right? Fast, 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 fast. I can't do it. So after today and the doctor wanting to put me on a GLP-1 again, and telling me I need to drop 20 to 30 pounds that I've gained after losing over 100, I'm just like, I'm going to have to restrict. I'm going to have to just mentally restrict, I guess, and if I'm hungry, then so be it, because I got up to 300 grams of fat and 6,000 calories, and I still was hungry. There's no full for me. And if I do get full, it's short-lived. Like a half an hour or an hour later, I'm hungry again. Saturday, I ate a ribeye, a hamburger patty, 4 or 5 eggs, and 4 pieces of bacon, and I was still hungry. I mean, it was piled and piled. Is that like a big meal? That's a big meal, right?
It's a
I didn't
huge
even,
meal.
and I'm like, I
Have
mean,
you ever thought about eating breakfast?
that's what I was going to mention.
Yep, that's
So
what I heard too. I know where
Dr.
you're going with it.
Barry and Nisha just talked about this tonight. Like, maybe I go to
So
3 meals for a while. Maybe I go to 3
so
meals for a while. Yeah.
so my daughter-in-law has always been a little overweight, but heavier than she wanted to be. And she always skipped breakfast. And her doctor told her that she was messing up her hormones, and that well, it wasn't her doctor, it was some kind of therapist that she went to. She didn't really share that with me, but she said the woman told her she should, or doctor, whoever it was, told her she should start eating breakfast to balance her hormones and to eat 3 meals a day. You don't have to eat as much, but you need to eat like an hour after you've been up.
Yep.
And yeah. So it's at least, I think our job as carnivores is to figure out our bodies. And if it's not working, change something. So if
Amen.
you're
saw
eating,
that. Yep.
so if you're really hungry, but you skip breakfast, maybe it's time to add breakfast in and see what happens.
I heard that tonight. And we did the case study for PhD and I almost failed it because the fake guy, the fake dude, I was like, well, just have your first meal at noon, because that's what I do. And then Nisha and Dr. Barry were talking about that tonight. And like, maybe like what you said, do 3 meals a day, or maybe do breakfast and lunch, or breakfast and
Dinner.
later afternoon dinner. Yeah. And then fast until breakfast. I don't know how many grams of what, Bill? Fat? Like 300 plus. Like, I don't know. What would you recommend, Bill? Like 1,000 grams of fat? I mean, what?
300 sounds excessive.
uh
So
Yeah.
so I saw that too. Nisha was saying that what they have found is that women in particular seem to do better if they have breakfast.
Mhm.
So, men, the intermittent fasting where men wake up, still wait another 4 to 6 hours before having a brunch as their first meal. With
Uh-huh.
women, they seem to do better if they wake up and have and she said, and it doesn't have to be like a big breakfast, it could just be a couple eggs,
Right.
just something. It's like something just to like get the engine
Like,
started, so to speak.
get that metabolism going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that, Amy, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, I was still watching when she said that, and so that might be something that's worth it. The intermittent fasting works for me, but my intermittent fasting lately is like 9:30 a.m. I get up at 7. I'll usually eat at between 9:30 and 10 a.m. I leave for work, and I make some sausages at home to take my medicine with. And then my son wants to stop and get something while we're out, so he usually gets like Sheets. And I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Sheets now has these keto bowls that you can get, so it's just eggs and sausage and cheese. And so I usually get one of those too. And because if he's eating in front of me, I'm going to feel like eating. So that's
Right.
why I just eat sausage, take my meds, and then 10 minutes later, we're at the gas station and I get my eggs over there. And but then that's it for me. Like I don't get hungry again until 5 o'clock, and at that point I just wait because my wife's going to be home at like 6 or 6:30, and then we'll have dinner. And so I intermittent fast, but I'm eating breakfast and dinner, so I'm not doing like a 16 and 8. I'm doing 2 meals a day, but there's one's in the morning and one's in the evening.
Might
I'm
be a
skipping
good
that.
fit for me.
I'm skipping
And
that lunch. There's no lunch for me, so.
something's changed because when I first started keto 8 years ago, like I never had cravings. It would be like I would forget to eat. Like all those things what Dr. Barry said, I would eat vegetables and I'd be fine. I'd eat keto sweets and I would be full and I never had cravings. It would be 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't eaten anything yet." And now I'm, everyone's like, "You need to go carnivore." I'm carnivore and I don't think it has to do with carnivore versus keto. I don't think that's it. I think I'm 50 years old. My hormones are, well, lacking. Let's just put it that way. They're tanked. My testosterone was good. I think it's the estrogen. I'm low estrogen is what it is. And that's really what I think is causing this. So, and I don't think any amount of carnivoring hard enough right now is gonna, sorry guys, like, I am carnivoring hard, like doing it hardcore. But I think changing the eating windows might be the key. I think
Yeah.
that might be
Well,
the key.
plus, if you listen to Dr. Elizabeth Bright, she's a big believer in feeding your hormones fat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the problem with that is my weight keeps going up and up. The more fat I add, I mean, and I'm not talking just 5-10 pounds. I'm up like 30 pounds, which to me is a little bit unacceptable. Like
But I don't
it's
think you can't blame that on fat. The amounts of food you were talking about that you were eating, a ribeye plus 4 other things.
Mhm.
Well,
Everybody
so
says eat to
don't blame
satiety,
it on
right?
fat. No, I know. I understand that you were eating because you were hungry, but you can't blame it on fat if you were eating a lot of protein.
Yeah, it's
You
the
understand what I'm
it's the
saying?
overall volume. It's not the blame on one
Right.
particular macronutrient.
So should I just eat butter and like what are those little fat chunks? Like, is that
Well,
what I
I
should be
don't.
eating?
Butter bites.
No, I
fat-
mean,
well,
I'm not saying don't
fat-
eat
the fat-
protein, but make sure you're getting enough fat. And she's a
I mean,
big believer in eating a lot of
I'm
butter. I don't know.
putting butter on my burgers, butter on my eggs. So, I'm putting butter on everything, but it seemed like the more butter that I add to stuff and the more fat that I add, the more weight I gain. I don't know. I'm really
Well,
trying to
it would make sense. The more you add, again, it's not necessarily the macronutrient. In this case, if you're adding fat, then the more you gain. It's, you say you can't. You're eating, but not to satiety, and you're gaining weight. So logically you're overeating, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. But I mean, everyone says eat to satiety. What if you don't get full? Like, what if after your last bite,
yeah.
you're
So if
still
you're
hungry?
not, if your satiety signals are broken and just not working, that's why I said you might have to actually just track.
Stop.
Get Carb
Yeah.
Manager, get a notebook.
I've done that. Yeah. And so
'cause
what happens
you
is
mentioned wolfing down like almost 4,000 calories or more.
in one meal, yeah. And so here's the deal.
No, if I did
track.
that, I'd gain 30 pounds too.
I track and I reduce the amount of food I'm intaking, protein and fat. I reduce it. And then I'm starving. Like I feel starving all the time. So, I mean, I can do that. I can restrict myself, right? I can but I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated doing that. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at today. I ate less food, right? And I'm hungry tonight. Like
Are you on any medications?
I take 2 medications that I've taken since 9 years old. I'm off all of my medications except for allergy medications and Montelukast for my asthma because I live with 4 cats. And I'm in the process of getting off those medications too because I'm going on shots, allergy shots.
I was just wondering because
Yes.
yeah, because oh gosh, can't think of his name.
I do.
Anyways, one of the carnivore doctors was talking about that earlier today about how medications can mess things up for you. Do you think it's a hormonal thing mostly or a self-control thing for you?
I think it's a hormonal thing because I never had okay, so Jason's asking me about the PSMF. I felt great, amazing doing PSMF for 4 years. 4 years I did it until I didn't feel great. And I think what the difference is menopause. I had a hysterectomy. They left my ovaries. They took out my uterus. And, among other things, we've already talked about the 2020 thing, having the vid 7 times, getting the intervention, tanked my energy. So I think it's a culmination of things, but ultimately right now, I think it's this stage in life I'm in. And maybe it's temporary. Juliet thinks it's too much protein. So, okay. So I'm going to ask the experts here, what fat meals without the protein do you recommend I eat? Just a plate of fat? A stick of butter? Like, how do you eat because I like meat and eggs, right? But there's protein and fat in both of those. So what recipes for fat?
So
ice cream, Kiltz's ice cream,
butter bites, things like that.
Which has dairy in it, right? It has dairy. I'm trying to avoid dairy.
Okay. And then
egg yolks and butter.
Go to the butcher. Get you the trimmed off fat. Take it home and air fry it, deep fry it, whatever.
Yep.
I've done that plenty. When I make my tallow, You're always going to have what I call the little fat bites left over after all the tallow is rendered out. I save those. When I'm having a craving, which is rare these days, but in the past, in the beginning, when I'd have a craving, I'd get a bowl of those, heat them up in the microwave, put a little salt on them, and I'd eat them. And it's just eating just pure fat.
Or very uncooked, undercooked bacon.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking my love language.
I'm seeing a lot of people talking about this dehydrated bacon. I think Bill even mentioned it on here.
I've heard about that. I haven't done it yet.
I want to try that.
You know why I won't do that?
Why?
Because it takes 2 days. I cannot wait for bacon.
No, you gotta put a pound of bacon in the dehydrator, but cook up some, but barely cook it.
There you go.
You barely cook it. You cook it just enough to let it start to change the color.
Yeah,
and eat it. And people accuse me, I show all my food that I eat, and I got my eggs and bacon on a plate, and people say your bacon is raw, and I'm like, I want to eat the fat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want crispy bacon, because then all you got left is the protein. I need that fat.
That's a great idea.
I agree with you.
Yeah, if you think dehydrating takes a long time, you got to try biltong sometime. Biltong takes a week.
Oh my gosh!
Because it's air dried.
I made jerky right in the smoker, but
jerky doesn't take long at all compared to biltong.
Yeah,
because jerky you're adding heat and smoke, whereas biltong it's just strictly air dried, and it takes a solid week.
Nope. It would have made
it. But it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, I've done fat bombs in the past when I was keto. I could do butter bites, I suppose. Brown butter bites, maybe.
Brown butter bites, yeah.
Yeah.
What I've done recently is I shifted my eating. I was eating, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I had my 1 meal a day, basically an open window of 2 hours of eating. I make my bacon, I eat my eggs, and I have my beef or whatever. I eat about an hour after I get up now. 1 meal a day. And I've been doing this for 2 or 3 weeks. And it's grossly cut. I don't even think about food very much anymore. I'm the kind of person, if I'm sitting here watching, I can't watch these food channels on YouTube, or somebody on YouTube, picks up a cup of coffee and takes a sip. Well, I want a cup of coffee. I'm that triggered. And but eating first thing in the morning, I just find it easier to deal with life. Food does not affect me. Maybe it's because I'm full. I don't know. But
I'll tell you a good fatty meal. Simple. Do you like soft boiled eggs?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Here's something that and I saw it, I think, on Kiltz's Tribe. Somebody posted this, and I tried it and just fell in love with it. Soft boil your eggs, and me personally, I like to peel the egg, even though it's soft boiled. I like to peel the shell away, so I've got the whole soft boiled egg, and I'll cut each one in half, put it in a bowl, and then I'll just take numerous pats of butter and put in there with it, and just mix it up. And you talk about a fatty meal, and and a little bit of good salt, a little bit of Maldon's, and I'm gonna tell you what, that is so good. That's a heck of a breakfast right there. Nice and fatty,
so
tasty.
Delicious.
It is. It's absolutely wonderful.
Oh, the other thing that's killing me right now. So I observe Lent. So Fridays are very difficult for me right now. But what I've been eating is I've been taking salmon, and I've been putting butter on it, and I've been wrapping it up and putting it in the air fryer and cooking in the air fryer with butter, lots of butter in it. And then I take butter and put it in a skillet, and then but salmon and shrimp are lower fat, right? I'm adding fat to it, but I can't have meat on Fridays right now. So I can only have seafood.
I take the canned salmon and egg yolks, which there's the fat,
Mhm.
and I add just a little bit of minced onion, like a tablespoon, for a whole can of that salmon. And I fry them in butter, make a cake-like thing,
Mhm.
and that's what I use. It's tough.
So
Do you
when I was
observe
a
Lent
kid,
too?
Catholics always only ate fish on Friday. It
Yeah.
wasn't just during Lent. When did this happen?
Well, so I'm 50 years old, and I remember like only during Lent. So as long
Oh,
as I've been
really?
alive, at least in my
Oh,
diocese.
wow.
Now, but I think my parents said when they were growing up, and they're 81, they never, like what you said, they
Yeah,
never
yeah.
That's what
had
it
meat
was
on
when I was
Friday.
growing up. In fact, I remember in school lunches, everybody ate fish on Friday. I mean, everybody. They weren't
Yeah.
taking no chances.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Interesting.
I try to observe that. It's hard. And also the other thing that I throw into there is I have a little lunch group that I go out with on Fridays, some friends. And imagine ordering at a restaurant. So I'm eating usually what I get, and I'm trying not to eat cheese, right? But I can't get an omelet with meat. So what I'm doing on Fridays is I'm ordering a cheese omelet. So trying not to eat cheese, but on Fridays during Lent, I'm like, right now, I'm having cheese on Fridays. And then there's no sides I can have. I can't have bacon. I can't have toast. I can't have hash browns. So I'm getting a side of cottage cheese, which is not great, but it's the best option on the menu because I'm not doing sliced tomatoes anymore. I'm not doing any vegetables, and it stinks. So I'm
Do you
struggling
ever
with that.
fast? Do you ever fast at all, ever?
When you say fast, what is your definition of fast? Because there's
24
so
hours.
many different. I have.
24 hours, just water.
I made it to 48 hours.
So why don't you just fast on Fridays? Eliminate the whole problem.
I was going to do that, right? But
Yeah.
I was going to do that, but with the way I've been feeling
I
the last
understand.
couple
Yeah.
months, I decided maybe not this year. Next year, if I've got things figured out a little better. But I just decided I not this year. Not
Well,
this
I
year.
grew up Catholic. I'm 70 and I grew up Catholic. So in the 1960s, every other Friday night we had pancakes. Okay? Butter and syrup, pancakes. And opposite those Fridays, we had tuna fish. And what do you serve with a tuna fish sandwich? Oh, you make homemade French fries because there's potatoes in the root cellar.
Mhm.
That was my mother was a converted Catholic and she feared the Catholic Church. And that's what we ate.
We had mac and cheese, I think. A lot of mac and cheese. But yeah,
Remember what? So did you give up anything for Lent overall?
you're not supposed to talk about that, Paul.
Oh, I was never taught that. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I
It's a
didn't
So
know.
secret?
I
I didn't know it was
apologize.
supposed to be a secret, really?
you're
I didn't know. I didn't know that. I was never taught that. I'm sorry.
so usually I give
Again.
up a technology like my social media. But now that I'm a
Oh, okay.
coach, it's
You
kind of
can't
hard to
do that.
I can't really do that. Yeah, so usually I do that. I'm trying to be more. You don't have to necessarily give something up. You can do extra, right? You can do
Yeah,
extra.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I've been doing the Bible in a day, and I've been trying to pray more, be more prayerful every day. So I just like as far as giving things up, as far as like a lot of people give food up, right? Well, there's really not much left for me to give up. I mean, I don't drink. I don't eat chocolate. I don't eat. So it's more about me. It's more about doing, right? Doing. It's more about doing things. So I try to be more intentional with reading the Bible and praying and stuff like that. And I don't want to get, I know a lot of people in the chat probably aren't religious, so I don't want to preach to that, but that's kind of what I'm doing, being more intentional with those things. But yeah, you're not supposed to tell.
I never heard that before. I'm sorry.
You haven't?
I have
I
never
don't.
heard that either. I mean, I'm not Catholic, but I have had a lot of Catholic friends, and I've never heard that.
I mean, I only found out here in the last 5 years that Lent goes from Monday to Saturday. So if you give up something,
Oh, I
you
didn't
could
know
have it
that.
on. Yeah. Count the 40 days. You have to take out the Sundays to get to 40.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either until just.
I don't
And
think
I
that's
watched-
true. I don't think that's true.
Well,
I think.
I heard it from a Catholic priest, so I don't know. You know.
I missed that.
Well, so I think it depends on the priest too, because I mentioned this the other day that my priest told me that I could have chicken broth, right? Or I could make things with animal products. Like I asked him, I'm like, look, I like to fry my eggs in bacon grease. Okay, is bacon grease prohibited? And he was like, no, you just can't eat meat. And then I asked about, I like soups, but this is before I was carnivore. I asked him this like a year ago. I'm like, can I make soup out of, like, what broth? Do I have to use vegetable broth? Because I prefer chicken or beef. He's like, yes, you can use the broth from an animal. And so I mentioned this the other night, and Lewis, who's Catholic, was in there. And he gave me this like dagger shooting through the screen. And was like, I don't think so. So I think it all depends on what priest you ask. You know, and maybe my priest is being gracious to me, because the first year I went keto, I'll never forget this. I'm like, man, I missed those breaded fish fries that the good old Catholics and Lutherans and everybody has, where they got the breaded fried fish, right? So I thought, I'm going to recreate this, and I'm going to take some fish and I'm going to crush up some pork rinds. Well, pork is meat, right? And I'm going to bread the stuff in the pork rinds, and then I'm going to fry that in the air fryer. And then I'm like, I got 3 bites into it, and I'm like, oh, that's meat. Pork rinds are meat. And so I asked the priest about that. I'm like, look, how bad of a sin was that? You know, and he's like, he was like, so he's really kind to me. It's complicated, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I didn't mean to offend you at all in any way.
No, you didn't. You didn't. You're good, Paul.
But when I heard that, I got out the calendar and I counted the days, and you know, the guy was right, and I scratched my head. You know, I don't know.
I didn't know that.
I would really like to tell 2 quick stories about type 1 diabetes, if you would allow me, before we close tonight.
Go ahead.
The first one is a woman from my book club, a young woman from my book club. She's a type 1 diabetic, but she's only been diagnosed for like 5 years. So she thinks she's LATA too. And she was metering her insulin because she doesn't have insurance, and insulin is expensive, so she wasn't taking enough. And she went into DKA, that's diabetic ketoacidosis. All the people that are coaches should know this term. But so she was rushed to the hospital, and she went into a coma, and she nearly died, but they saved her, and she didn't die. And then they taught her how to count carbs, and she wasn't taking insulin for food. She was only taking long acting. Anyway, that was the first story. And so she's taking her type 1 diabetes more seriously, and they taught her how to count carbs. So she's okay now. The other story is about, maybe some of you have heard this story, I don't know. So this woman, she was a type 1 diabetic, and she's Norwegian, and she came over on a student visa, and she was here for 2 years, and she fell in love with this guy, that they both played volleyball together, and they fell in love and got married. And her lawyers told her, because her visa was running out, and that's not why she got married, but in the meantime, she got married, then her visa ran out. So her lawyers told her just to wait and go to her meeting, because you have, when your visa, you have a green card meeting. And so when she went to her green card meeting, there were a whole bunch of other people in there that their visas had run out too, and they were all in the different offices doing during the meeting, the ICE people came in and arrested her and took her to a detention center, and they took her insulin away, and they took her CGM receiver, so she didn't know what her blood sugar was the whole time she was there. And they kept telling her that they were going to give her insulin, but they let her go for 2 days without any insulin at all. And then they finally gave her some, but they weren't doing it right. But they would not allow her to give her own insulin or to make the judgment on how much she should take. So by the time they got a good doctor there, blood sugars were 500. She
Is
could
this
have died.
recently?
Yes, recently. It's terrible, and it was dirty, and it was anyway, I now follow her on Instagram, but it was a amazing story that I heard, and I did post it on our WhatsApp group, because it was just very telling, about it was a horrible story.
Wow.
And she had to get lawyers involved and all this stuff, and she's got a GoFundMe because her lawyers are expensive and money that she didn't think she would have to. Anyway, I just thought it was an amazing story. So
Yeah, it is.
both of them, that diabetes can be controlled, but it can also be extremely dangerous.
Yes, indeed.
So.
Well, thank you for sharing. Let's see here. All right. All right, let's go back to some comments here. Bill Cook says, eating fats helps you release GLP-1s naturally. Yes, GLP-1 is actually something that your body does produce on its own. Have you tried removing all sweet taste from your diet, including artificial sweeteners? So is what Papa Carnivore asked. I know she does answer that. She's tried just about everything. Many of us started with Dr. Barry. Well, I actually stayed with him because I went through his PHDC coach certification. And you got that too, didn't you, Amy?
Yes, I did. I went through both Dr. Barry and Kiltz.
Yeah, I did the Kiltz one. I applied for the Barry one, but at the time they only accepted like 200 people, and I was not among the batch that was selected.
Really?
The first time around. And I haven't tried. I don't know if they've done any subsequent classes since.
I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, I did it. I did apply and did not get selected. So, all right. Mm-hmm. I highlighted this because this is it's worth noting all the time. Booby Goats Aaron says taking too much unnecessary iodine can also mess up your thyroid. So the only reason I highlight that is there's a lot of people out there that are iodine crazy. They just really, really push the iodine, but too much iodine can be harmful. And just like with anything else, I think it's really the best thing you want to do is kind of when it comes to vitamins or supplements, microdose. The same with the iodine.
Yeah. Someone told me to go up to 15 drops in your coffee. And so I did. And that's when my thyroid test came back off. Mm-hmm. So I backed it down to the normal 3, 4, or 5 that I normally do. Mm-hmm. And guess what? My thyroid test came back normal. So yeah, that might make sense. That tracks.
Iodine and vitamin D, you really need to do the lab test.
Mhm.
You really need to
So-
track where you're going.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in on this myself. So I started a high iodine regimen, based on
Yeah.
Dr. Seyfried's recommendations for cancer treatment, iodine and salt. I think I was taking 4, 8, 16 drops a day, if I remember right. Putting it in my water throughout the day. So here a while back, about a month ago, back in the 8th of January, I had a blood test, and everything on the blood test looked great. Doctor never even mentioned my cholesterol. Of course, I've got a different doctor now, and he looks at risk ratios and not numbers. So, anyways, so the one thing that was kind of high was I'm looking for it. Hang on. Thyroid stimulating hormone. My results were 4.93. That's flagging as high. The range is 0.40 to 4.10. And mine was 4.93. So I don't know. I'm assuming, and a quick check on Chat GTP and stating what I was doing was telling me that that was elevating my numbers too much. Now, is that a bad thing? I don't know. Is it something I should still be doing? I don't know. Now, I did back off. I'm still taking Lugol's, but I'm only taking 2 or 3 drops a day now instead of 16 drops a day.
Same here. Same thing happened to me. I bumped up my Lugol's based on a few recommendations from people, and that's when my thyroid test came back high. So then I backed them down, and guess what? Now my thyroid test is normal. And then I almost killed myself with the Armour thyroid medication, but we won't go there.
My TSH was high the time before my blood test, and they wanted me to get a full panel. And I was like, I have no symptoms. I don't have cold hands or feet. I'm not fatigued. I don't think I'm going to go get a full panel. So then when I get my blood test just now, my TSH was fine. So I don't know. Maybe I was right. Maybe I don't know.
And it's definitely, and I can tell you right below my test for TSH being high was my PSAs, and I know taking that extra iodine wasn't bringing my PSAs down because they're still climbing.
Bill Cook asks, what are the symptoms of having too much iodine? And so, like it was talked about, it could affect the thyroid in either direction. You could get hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism. And then you could also get what's called iodine toxicity. And that might manifest itself in like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and in severe cases, even a fever and or a coma. So it can be serious, So, that would be taking a lot though. And then usually you're not going to have iodine toxicity from food. Usually it's from supplementing too much, So if you eat fish, you eat seaweed, to get your iodine, that's fine. If you take a few drops, that's fine. But, you don't want to do it in excess for long periods of time without some sort of lab work to see where you're at.
Yeah, I would still like to talk to Thomas Seyfried about this, about his protocol and everything, and whether this TSH being too high for somebody like me is a bad thing. If it's something I shouldn't worry about, because like I said, I'm doing it for cancer therapy, and maybe that being high isn't a bad thing for cancer cancer therapy. I don't know.
All right.
Oh no.
Let's see here. Life of Brian P. says, thank God I reversed my type 2 diabetes, obesity, and resolved cancer without chemo and radiation. Wow. That's awesome. I'd love to fire my doc carnivore diet. I guess, I don't know. But reverse type 2 diabetes and cancer and obesity. That's amazing. So I'd love to hear more about that. Very good. Latro says, I should mention I was on 2 BP meds, lisinopril and amlodipine. A couple months into carnivore, I was off both. That's good. Most people that have essential hypertension are able to get off their BP meds. Unfortunately, I'm still on mine, but I don't have essential hypertension. I've got secondary hypertension as a result of organ failure. Very nice. Coach Juliet says, I coach GLP-1 users at my gym. If I can get them early, they are able to use it as a proper tool with the right nutrition. Many regret starting. Everybody is different. So, and that's kind of mirrors how I feel about it too. It could be a tool, something that gets you on the right path, but the path, the end of the path is a life of real food and no GLP-1s. So that's what's at the end of the path. That's your destination. All cows eat grass until they are finished. After they are finished, then they're finished. Haha. Do you finish your cows, Jeff, with grains, or are they grass fed the whole time?
No, they're grass.
Grass fed.
They're grass.
Yeah. When someone
they get some grains as a treat once in a great while, but that's more of a kind of a sweet feed to when I'm moving them.
Mm-hmm.
When I need them to go someplace specific, I need them going to this pen. It's a lot easier taking a little sweet feed, rattle the bucket, and they get a taste of that, and they'll follow you anywhere when you do that. In fact, that's even how I can get them in the trailer when I take them down to the butcher.
Mm-hmm.
Pour the sweet feed in there and leave them alone. They'll go in that trailer. No fuss, no muss, no raising of the cortisol levels in them.
Very nice.
Yep.
All right.
That's how you do it.
Lexus says that when I say I can't eat enough, I mean that I have no appetite for the meat. So I just can't eat a lot of it. Okay, so we have a bit of a meat aversion, perhaps. Then, if you can't do carnivore, then the next best thing is ketovore or keto, So if you can't eat a plate full of meat, if you can do half your plate meat and half your plate low carb veg, then do it. If you do a third of your plate meat and a third of one veg and a third of something because you want some variety, then do it. So remember, it's a spectrum. Up to 100 grams carbohydrates on one end of the spectrum of whole foods, not man-made junk. And then you got zero carb carnivore on the other end. And then where at on that spectrum do you belong? You got to find that out. So, you do not have to be carnivore. But we certainly don't want you eating the standard American diet. So you can thrive on a low carb or keto diet. You can even thrive on an animal-based diet. So it's just, eat. If it comes from the sky, if it comes from the earth, if it comes from the sea, or I always say, if it's something that God or Mother Nature put down here to eat, and it doesn't have to go through some sort of mass manipulation in order to make it edible and not make you sick, then it's fair game.
If you're Rick, if it comes from the dumpster or the parking lot.
Right.
Or the canal.
Or the
I couldn't
canal.
resist.
But he ain't, he's still not, he's not flush. He's not pulling Snickers out of that canal.
That's true.
He's not digging bags of chips out of that dumpster.
Right.
Everything that Rick eats is still 100% real food. 99% meat most of the time, I think. So
And he's an expert in telling when the dumpster chicken has turned and when it's still good.
yeah. But like that new food pyramid says at the top, eat real food, and you got up in the upper left, you got meat, and then it starts to, then you got some vegetables, and as you go down, you get some fruit or something, and then at the very bottom, you got your grains and stuff like that. I mean, just that, follow that closely. Just chop the bottom off. I'd say ignore the grain part, and I think that's enough to really kind of help you out right there. So, and then work on finding ways to make meat more palatable. Use seasonings, use sauces. Take
A lot
advantage
of
of all
people,
that stuff.
and a lot
Yeah.
of people who have meat aversion can eat eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Happened to me. So that happened to me in 2019 when I first started my ketogenic journey. I had 2 surgeries that year, and I don't know what it was. I believe it was the anesthesia. And it usually takes me 6 months to like recover from this. But having 2 surgeries within 6 months, my taste buds changed, and beef disgusted me. The only thing I could eat was bacon and eggs, and I ate bacon and eggs, and I lost 60 pounds that year just on bacon and eggs. Bacon and eggs. I ate it every day. 2 meals a day, I would eat bacon and eggs, and I would try to eat meat. Chicken, I could get some chicken in. But like anything, it's probably the saltiness of the bacon that I really liked. It didn't, but I had a meat aversion. And the weird thing is I used to love cilantro. That year, I could not stand cilantro either.
Did it taste like soap?
Yeah, but just for a year. Like I like it again, even though I'm not eating it. I like it again. Something changed, and I believe it was the trauma from the anesthesia, maybe. So meat
Yeah,
aversion is a real
probably.
thing, folks. It's a real thing.
You're putting any kind of chemical into your body, anesthesia, GLP-1s, they can mess around with stuff. Affect your mental state too, I think.
Alrighty. Star that one there. Find my place. All right. So, might want to go to Steak and Butter Girl and Prime to get your hunger full signals back. It took me 3 months, but it worked. So there's some interesting advice from Linda McDaniel there.
Yeah, I've heard of the priming. The other thing I'm thinking too is where I live, and I don't know if this is this way for you over in Ohio, but I'm just south of Lake Michigan, and we get what's called lake effect snow, right? And this is so this is the second time I've seen grass since October.
Mm-hmm.
I have been trapped inside. I've been doing these courses. The weather has been horrific. We've had 90 inches of snow since October, and there's no going out. And honestly, everyone's like, you can still go outside. This girl is not going outside in 20 below zero, not for a breath of fresh air, not to look at a gray sky. I'm sorry. So that, if we think about this could be playing into my situation too, right? That we've had such a horrific winter. How does anybody get exercise or sunlight or, when there's like 6 months of darkness and dread?
Right. Yeah. It's hibernation time.
Move
Yeah.
to Texas.
Move to Texas. Yeah.
I would love that.
It was pretty bad here. This was a brutal winter compared to the last several years. We had it easy. This year was brutal, and brutally cold, brutal amounts of snow. And yeah, so I live around Akron, Ohio. It's just south of what they call the snow belt. So once I drive about 10 minutes north, and I pass the Ohio Turnpike, which is Route 80, that's kind of like the where it begins. We could have no snow here. As soon as you cross 80, blizzard, 2 feet of snow, because you get the snow belt there and the lake effect snow from Lake Erie. And but this year, we got hammered a lot. A lot of our snow came up from the south instead of coming down from the north too. And but no, I know what you mean. It's every winter. This is one of those winters where I'm like, why am I 50 and still in Ohio? Why haven't I escaped yet?
Well, I'm in Maine, so we had feet, definitely. But today was 60
Mm-hmm.
and blue skies. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was 70 here. I actually drove with the windows down. Felt a
Same
little
here.
feel warmth, So it was good. Yeah,
Same here.
so I think does that play into it? Sure. Like, I got a treadmill in the next room, and I thought this is what I can do during winter. So I bought this. It was like $150. I bought it used off of someone that my wife works with, and yeah, I like ran on it once, and I'm like, this thing's so boring.
You got to put it in front of your TV.
I need to put a TV in there. That I do. Because I'm just like,
Mine
this
is in
kinda-
the living room in front of my TV. It's a walking pad, and I do
Yeah.
lots of miles on it.
I need to put a TV in. Mine's up in this bedroom here next to me here. And I need to put a
watch-
TV in there because
Usually I watch you when I,
Mhm.
on Monday nights, on my walking pad while you're on.
Well,
all right.
and mine's on the 4-season room. So when it's cold outside, I have to spend 3 hours heating up that room just to go out there and not freeze.
Okay.
But that's the only room for it. Now for my 50th birthday, I just got a cycle. And that's in the bedroom next door to here, the spare bedroom. So I can start doing that in the winter too, cycling indoors.
Now I
for
love
me-
to walk. I love to walk the dog. I love to walk the neighborhood. I love to walk the hiking trails. Like I do the fall hiking spree. I do the spring hiking spree. Once the weather's nice, I love to get out there and move. But in the winter, it's like, it's PlayStation. It's to come home from work. It's dark. Binge watch a TV show, play PlayStation, make a YouTube video, something like that. So
For me, I just don't have the discipline to work out at home, to exercise at home. I don't know what it is. I mean, right now on the other side of my desk, I'm looking at my weight bench and my weights and everything, and I haven't hit them in well over a month. Because when I start working out here, I got too many other things to think about that need to be done around here, and I can't find the motivation. So what I found is if I go someplace to work out, then I'm more motivated that way. And so I've got what we call a wellness center put on by a healthcare clinic here. And, it cost me $25 a month. They got the machines, they got the free weights, they got, every cardio machine there is, from stair climbs to ellipticals and treadmills, and I use them all and I enjoy it. So that's how I get my motivation to go. And it doesn't matter what the weather's like. As long as I can drive there, and it's only 2.6 miles down the road from my house. Even though I live out in the country, here I got a place I can go exercise 2.6 miles from my house.
That's awesome.
So that's what motivates me is to be able to go someplace to do this. And I've been hitting it pretty hard for the last 3 weeks now. And because I've lost too much muscle, between the age, sarcopenia, I've just lost too much. So I've had to start building it back up, and I'm already feeling it. We're getting ready for kidding season. Goats are fixing to start throwing kids, and so we've been moving some panels around, and I've noticed these panels. Me and my wife, we'd pick up some of these heavy panels, and we got some light ones, some heavy ones, and we were going to use these big heavy ones. And in the past, we could barely drag them across the ground. And I notice I'm picking them things up just after 3 weeks of hitting the weights hard again. I'm able to pick them panels up and just move them. So I'm already seeing a difference. That's one thing when you get our age, you got to lift. It ain't just cardio. You got to lift. It helps keep the bones strong. It helps keep the muscles up there where they need to be.
I used to have a gym membership, and I lived down the street from it, and I used to go down there all the time and like thoroughly enjoyed it. And then we let it go, and a couple years, maybe 5 years later, we tried to renew it again, and then I don't know, nobody wanted to go down there, and so we really didn't take. We paid for a year, and we really didn't take advantage of it. So then I didn't renew it. I don't know why. The second time around, it seemed like I think I was just busier, had more kids, and I was trying to find time to go down there. It was much more difficult.
Well, you like the motivation.
Yeah.
You know, I'm motivated by needing to build my muscle back up to get strong again because I was getting weak. And I noticed that, you know, when we were moving here to our new place, you know, we moved to farm. It took us 28 trips to get everything down here. We're talking heavy equipment. We're talking, you know, panels and fences and, you know, all kinds of equipment. And I just couldn't believe how weak I was getting. And it just was blowing my mind. And when I got sick shortly after we moved here, I got sick, you know, for about a week and I couldn't eat. And I ended up losing 10 pounds. And it wasn't fat that I lost. It was all muscle. I got down to 160 pounds and I'm like, man, this just ain't right. And so that gave me the motivation, but trying to be motivated at home just wasn't getting it for me. So that's why I had to go someplace else to do it. But it's like everything else, whether you're dieting, whether you're eating carnivore, sometimes the pain of staying where you're at has to be, you know, greater than the pain of changing your life. And so, you know, that's my motivation. It was my motivation to heal myself going carnivore because I was dying. And now I got one more thing to fix, and that's my muscles. So the pain of getting weaker is stronger than the pain of going out there and actually hitting the weights again.
Well, I took your advice. I joined the gym last Friday, and we have a beautiful recreation department here, beautiful facility. It's better than a lot of commercial gyms, and with my Medicare plan, it was free.
Cool.
So,
good deal.
Man, they got beautiful locker room and beautiful pool, and it's easy. Everything's easy, and so I've taken the advice between you and Dr. Bernstein. I'm into my fitness program now.
Yeah, at our age, we need to be, Paul. We need to be.
Well,
and, you know, Dr. Baker, you know, he preaches it. If you want to keep them bones strong, and strong bones is important to us old folks, you want to keep them bones strong, you've got to lift. You got to lift heavy. And what I do is I keep a journal on it. I know what I lift each week. And each week, well, my program is I lift to failure on each exercise. And whenever I can hit 10 reps at one weight,
Then you move up.
my goal is to get 6 reps in at a specific weight and increase that to 10. Once I hit 10, then I add 5 pounds to the weight.
Yeah, I'm doing something
And I
very
go back
similar.
to six reps and then work my way up to 10. And then I just keep doing that over and over. And I've been amazed at the results so far. And I only have to do one set. I'll do one good warm-up set, and then I do one set to failure. I'm in and out of that gym in no time flat. I mean, yeah, you know, my cardio will take 45 minutes or so, but as far as the weightlifting, doesn't take long at all, and I'm already seeing results.
Very good. Inspiring me. I should go get a gym membership.
Me too.
The earlier you start, the better off you are. And then you don't have the excuse of weather unless you can't drive there.
You know, in some of the
That's
videos
true.
of Dr. Bernstein, he's got like a short sleeve shirt on, and you can see he was pretty toned and pretty firm.
I don't go to the gym. I work out with body weight exercises. right next to my bed every morning. And I got, most days I get 10 miles walking. I got
Good deal.
9.9 tonight, so I got to walk around my house a little bit. 22,396 steps and 9.9 miles.
It's good you're that disciplined. I wished I was.
Well, type 1 diabetes and fear of dementia is enough to motivate me.
That's what it takes. That's
Yeah.
what it takes. Yeah.
There's-
Yeah,
there's
that was what motivated me on Carnivore was my heart condition.
Very nice. Coach Juliet Eden says mental health meds can really cause other issues with food and hunger. That could actually be, part of the issue there. I think she said she's on 12 different meds, so that could be a contributing factor to both the meat aversion and lack of satiety.
And in my case, lack of meds could be doing it too, because if anybody's listened to my story, I was on a migraine medication and a side effect of that was weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
So I went off of that in 2024. So maybe part of my problem is my metabolism is reverse engineering that. And now it's messed up because I was on that medication, right? That made me not hungry. And now
Right.
I'm catching up from that. So that could,
It's kind of like overcompensating.
there's so
Yeah.
many variables. Whatever.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thought. Could be.
It's good theory.
I am non-denominational and used to give up sugar for Lent. Now I give it up year round. I don't remember why. I remember why I highlighted this. There used to be someone I used to talk to quite regularly, and every time Lent would roll around, that's what they would do, is they would give up sugar, because we'd go over there and visit them, and then they'd give my kids candy and pop because they couldn't have it.
Back in my single drinking days. So a guy at work, he told me he gave up drinking beer for Lent. I said, okay, well, that's cool. I don't know nothing about Lent. I'm not Catholic. My family's Catholic. I'm not. I'm the only one that ain't. And anyhow, so after work one day, I go to the bar, and he's sitting there at the bar with a glass of whiskey in his hand. I say, hey, I thought you gave up drinking for Lent. He said, no, sir, I gave up beer for Lent. This ain't beer. Okay, loophole. Whatever works for you, bro.
That's funny. Coach Juliet says, maybe it's just me. I don't take stuff unless there's an issue. Okay, and so I do agree with this here. I take D3 because it ran low. I get tested every 6 months or so. So same here. Because of my chronic kidney disease, I take vitamin D. It tends to be very low. Like my vitamin D was like 13, I think, at one point. And so now that's why I take 10,000 IUs a day. I take 5,000 at breakfast and I take 5,000 at dinner. And I've been doing that for years now. And my vitamin D is 53. It never gets above 55. And, but now that does not mean, if you're listening to this, that you should go out and start taking 10,000 IUs a day, because 10,000 IUs a day can actually kill someone else. They'll get vitamin D toxicity. That's normally way too much for someone for a long period of time. But because of my kidney condition, I spill the protein that vitamin D binds to in my urine. So that's why I'm able to take such a large overdose of vitamin D, and it really doesn't do anything to me because I'm spilling it most of the time anyway. But I had a friend who had a skin issue, and he started taking vitamin D, and his skin issue cleared up. But he was taking 2,000 IUs a day, and after about 3 months, he got his vitamin D test, and it was up about 130, up in the toxicity range. And his doctor's like, you need to back off that vitamin D. But he was healthy. And it was also summertime, and he did a lot of outdoor work. So he, in the summertime, he would mow a lot of grass. So he'd be out there with, just a wet rag tied around his head and his shirt off, and, getting a lot of sun. So during the summer, he probably didn't need to take any vitamin D supplements, but when he was in the wintertime, it was low because it was wintertime. So yeah, you got to be careful with vitamin D. You got to be careful with potassium. That's another one too, is electrolytes. If you overconsume electrolytes and you don't excrete them fast enough, that could be a problem. You got to watch out for overdoing on the iodine as well. So that's why I always say, if you're gonna start microdosing, and then most of this stuff you can get tested for. So you can get a blood test, and you can take it for a few months, get a blood test, and you can be like, oh, I can afford to take more. It's because I'm fine. Or you see it getting high, like, okay, I need to back off. So I think that's testing is important. You don't want to just start popping pills.
No, I don't believe in, I've said this many times before that I don't think any of us should do what somebody else is doing just because somebody else is doing it and it's worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do what works for you. Like you mentioned the electrolytes, my potassium levels got into dangerous levels. And with me with a heart condition, that could be a bad thing. It'll just stop my heart in the middle of nothing,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a firm believer. If you think you're deficient in something, go get tested and know for sure.
And even under a doctor's care. So what happened to me was my B vitamins were low. So I had a surgeon put me on B12 sublingual. Then my other doctor put me on a B complex, which has B12 in it. I told both doctors what the other doctor did, but doctors are, what does Dr. Berry say? Dudes and chicks.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors are dudes and chicks, and they don't always, they're human beings, right? So for 2 years, I lived in the bathroom. I had B vitamin toxicity. They were testing me for C. diff. They were testing me for all kinds of gastro issues because I care for my 94-year-old mother-in-law who's in a nursing home. So the first thing they think of when you're in and out of the nursing home all the time is C. diff. I'm not going to go into that. That's a disaster. Disaster pants, literally. But it's a very dangerous infection. And so for 2 years I lived in the bathroom, and then finally my last doctor did some routine blood work, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you need to stop taking B vitamins ASAP." And I'm like, well, what's the symptoms of B vitamin toxicity? And she's like, you're going to be in the bathroom all the time. I'm like, you mean I've been living in the bathroom for 2 years? Because my doctors prescribed over-the-counter B vitamins, 2 of them. So I'm double dosing.
Wow.
All right, let me mark my spot here. All right. Oh, hold on. There we go. All right. The new food pyramid says fat up to 10%. There was a discussion. It was a compromise with the big business. So it actually says saturated fat. And I know this is kind of a weird point because they said we're, in the grand announcement when they introduced this thing, we're ending the war on saturated fat. But then when you read like page 2 of the document, it says they recommend that saturated fat or calories from saturated fat stay no more than 10% of your food intake, which is what the recommendation had been for decades prior. So there's no change there. And it probably was a compromise. It's, you figure there's this whole rewrite, even though we know who's heading it up, it still was subject to a committee and a lot of people's input. So it is what it is. So, but the graph and the principle behind it, and the things that they said, I think are more important than that little detail there. We all know that there's nothing wrong with saturated fat. Lexa says she's taking a break from beef and focusing on chicken. That's fine. BBBE triggered really bad meat aversion for me. Yeah, no, that's fine. Chicken, eat chicken. Chicken's good. So eat the whole bird. Eat the skin, the breast, the thigh, the leg, make eat that chicken heart.
Get you a guinea.
Or a
Find a
guinea.
big
I
guinea.
found out what a guinea was for the first time the other day, thanks to Jeff here. He made this post. It showed like a egg life wrap with some meat in it, and all I saw was that he made like a guinea burrito, and I'm like, I didn't. He said guinea fowl, but my mind focused on guinea, and I didn't really catch the word fowl. So I'm like, what's he eating? And because I'm thinking guinea pig, you know.
There was a
Oh,
guinea.
God.
It was a guinea salad, is what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And but then I looked up guinea fowl, and it's a bird, you know, and I never heard of a guinea before.
Yeah, they're somewhat popular down here in Texas. People raise them. They're kind of more of an exotic, but they're a neat bird. They come from Africa. Very vocal bird.
Yeah, loud.
Come around. Oh yeah, they're loud. A lot of people like to keep them around for watchdogs. They'll let you know if somebody comes anywhere near your place for sure. But yeah,
And they eat the ticks in your yard.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, they will.
Yeah, they're good tick eaters. Yep.
So a couple of years ago, some neighbors of ours, when we lived up in Weatherford, they sent me a text and they say, "What are these birds?" And they sent me a picture. And I said, "Well, they're guineas. Why? Where are they at?" And it's, "They're on our front porch. Don't know where they came from." And now, I mean, there was a whole herd of them. There was like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them there. You know, they don't know where they come from. And I said, "Well, there's an avian up the road. They may have escaped from them, and you might check with them." Well, nobody was missing any guineas that they could find. And they said, "Well, what are we going to do with them?" And I said, "Well, you can catch them, give them away, or let me have them. I'll take them. I'll put them in with my chickens." And they fell in love with them. They ended up catching them. They borrowed a doghouse from me, a big doghouse from me, and they caught them up, and then put them in the doghouse. And they were just chicks. They were young chicks, about yay tall, about half grown. Anyways, he built it. He built them. Rob built them the nicest coop I'd ever seen, and while he's low carb, he's not zero carb. He doesn't eat as many eggs as I do, so they were always having an overflow of eggs. If you ever seen guinea eggs, they're small. They're real small, very tough shell, very tough membrane, but excellent eggs. And so they would give me dozens and dozens. We lived off of guinea eggs for just about one whole winter, it seemed like. And then so he texted me the other day since we moved, and he says, "Hey, I've got 2 males that are really mean, and I've got 2 men, and they've stopped the hens from laying. Would you like them?" He says, "No strings attached. I know what you're probably going to do with them. No strings attached. We just need to get rid of them." I said, "Yeah, bring them on down." I said, "I'll cook you up a couple of steaks. We'll have dinner, you know." And so he brought them down, and his wife, she said, "Well, this one's name is this, and this one's name is that." And I'm just being very polite, going, "Well, that's cute. That's cute. That's nice, you know." And Rob knows full well what I'm going to do with them. You know, they weren't gone 5 minutes, and those guineas were gone.
I'm going to show a picture of what you did with them. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's an hour and a half drive home for them to go back where they live, back up in Weatherford. And by the time they got home, them things was already dressed out and in the refrigerator. Next day, slow cooked them in the crock pot. Yeah, there's my guinea wraps.
There they are.
So I slow cooked them, then deboned them. The wife made a guinea salad out of them, like a chicken salad, and I made guinea wraps out of them. They were good.
Guinea wraps.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you guys explained that because I was lost.
Yeah, that's what
they're kind of a neat bird.
I think the eggs are good for something that chicken eggs aren't, but I can't remember what it is.
I don't know. I just know they're really good eggs. I like them over chicken eggs. I like most eggs over chicken eggs, really. Chicken eggs are I guess it's because we're just so used to them. I prefer, when I can get them, I can get duck eggs. Now my daughter has some ducks, and so she gives me a few duck eggs every week. So I get them. There's guineas. Yep.
Yep. Interesting looking bird.
Yep. Yeah, they eat pretty good.
Yeah, I had to look it up. I saw those 2 burritos. Look at things. I was like, what is a guinea?
Yeah, they're to me they're very similar to turkey in their meat. Their dark meat is a lot darker than turkey.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's almost as dark as like a wild duck, or goose. It's a real dark meat. It's very flavorful. Their white meat is just like turkey white meat. Not very flavorful, kind of dry. So that's why we make guinea salad out of it. You got to add some moisture to it. But they all gone now. I ate the last of it yesterday.
So Lambs was saying, I have meat aversion sometimes, but I could eat a mountain of junk food if I could. Maybe it's our hunger hormones that are off. So we're talking about meat aversion. So I will say that lately I have just been burned out, and my wife's been burned out for quite a long time, but I've been burned out lately. I've been burned out on steak. So, I've just
Blasphemy.
Yeah, the last couple times I've made a steak, I just haven't I don't know, that hasn't thoroughly excited me. So
Need to go get some ribs in.
yeah, I need to shake it up. That's why I talked about maybe I want to. The nicer weather might change things too. I think I'm tired of cooking it on my cast iron and on the stove. I think I need to get that grill cleaned up and fired up and start grilling outside again now that the weather's nice. I know why I've talked about I want to get a sous vide so I can get that perfect cook, because I've been cooking steak now for years and I'm pretty professional at it, but I'll still go down to Longhorn Steakhouse and I'm just like, man, I wish I could cook a steak as good as they can. That's my favorite steak in the world is the Longhorn around here, and it'll be, I don't know how it's seared, but soon as you break past that sear, it's a perfect medium throughout the whole inch, whereas when I cook a steak, it'll be an 1/8 inch of well done, then an 1/8 inch of medium well, then a medium in the middle, and then it's never cooked evenly.
Do you use a meat thermometer?
No, I've just got it down to a timing.
Okay. So I do a lot of cooking, and I do a lot of outdoor cooking over fire, my smoker, even my flat top. I love to cook, and I could cook brisket and ribs, and people to this day still think I'd open up a restaurant because they just love my barbecue. But I couldn't cook a steak for nothing. And I'm a Texan, and that's a shameful thing to say from a Texan, but I couldn't cook beef steak for nothing. They always came out overcooked until I got a meat thermometer. And a meat thermometer changed the whole thing. And I've never learned to do the touch. A really good chef can touch the meat and tell you what the tenderness is. And, God bless those that can do it. I'm not one of them. I also can't tell a horse's age by looking at his teeth. So, I fail in a lot of categories, but a meat thermometer changes the whole game. It'll tell you exactly what it needs to be, and you pull it. Stop looking at it. Don't care what it looks like. I just want to know what the inside temperature is.
Yeah,
My son was a chef for years, and he always had his thermometer handy, and he used to do the touch too, but I think he was trying to get trained to it, but it's very difficult, and
it's a feel, and I just haven't developed it.
The Longhorn Steakhouse has a secret ingredient.
I know up there in Weatherford. Yeah, I'm sorry, Paul.
They they have a secret ingredient that they rub on their steak, but they only rub it on one side. And they claim that that's why their steak tastes so good.
What is it? Sugar?
I don't know. It's like a secret thing, and you know, I really don't know. And
I know up there in where I used to live up in Weatherford, we still go up there once in a while. In fact, I'll be up there tomorrow. We've got a Longhorn Steakhouse, and then right across the highway there's a Texas Roadhouse. Now, me personally, they're both good. Don't get me wrong, but I prefer Texas Roadhouse, and one of the main reasons is I like the flavor of their steak a little bit better. But the thing is, I can go in and get a custom cut because they'll have it. They got this display of steaks on there, and you can pick out your own steak, and then they'll cook that and bring it to your table. Or you can just order off the menu. Well, I always go in there and I look at the steaks and I go, none of them are big enough. And I say, bring me one custom. And I'll have them cut anywhere from a 26 to a 28 ounce ribeye. Do it every time. And it's cooked to perfection every single time, which is, for me, is rare.
So
we have a nearby restaurant that only cooks your meal in a frying pan, clean frying pan, and you pick the oil.
That's a good deal.
You pick the fat, and they charge more for it. All their stuff in there is like $2 more than any place else. But you get exactly what you want.
So you were talking about Texas Roadhouse, and that used to be my favorite steak place, and I used to love it so much that you can actually buy Texas Roadhouse seasoning there at the restaurant and take it home, so you can try and cook similar steaks at home. But when you flip that bottle over and look at the ingredients will say sugar, seasoned salt, sugar, and seasoned salt.
Yeah. That's probably why they taste so good.
Yeah.
That's why I suggested that earlier. It's probably why it tastes so good.
Yeah. So the Texas Roadhouse seasoning, it does have sugar in it. So, and is it enough for you to go to Texas Roadhouse and say, don't season my steak?
It ain't gonna stop me.
I'm not worried about it.
At home, all I use is salt. Once in a while, a little garlic powder, but mainly just salt.
Right.
And it's like we've talked about before. If I get a little seed oil in my eggs, if I eat out, that's the only seed oil I've had in months and months and months. If I get a little sugar in my seasoning, how much is there really?
Right.
It's not going to affect me. It's obviously not giving me any cravings. Mm-hmm. And when I'm eating a 2-pound steak, I'm perfectly satisfied when I'm finished with that puppy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a trivial amount. Now, when I was first started the carnivore diet, and I was, really zealous and really strict during my first year, I remember going to Texas Roadhouse, and as we're waiting to be set, because it's always busy there, at least the one by me is, I'm watching the cooks, because you come in the door and there's a case where you can see all this raw meat, and then you can look over them and you can see the cooks actually working. And they took this ladle, dipped it in this pan, and poured this oil on this grill, and then threw a steak on it. And I asked the cook, I was like, "What is that? Is that what'd you put on the grill?" And I think he said it was rice oil, so it was a seed oil. So when we go and sit down, I tell the server, I'm like, "Can you just throw my steak, instead of putting it on the grill with the oil?" I said, "I can't have the oil. I'm allergic. Just throw it right over the fire on the actual grill and just grill it for me that way. Skip that first step." And she's like, "Oh yeah, we can do that." Well, next thing you know, the manager's out there like, "Who's the one that's allergic to oil?" And she's all worried that like I'm gonna fall over and die in her dining room, and I'm like, okay, maybe I heard on the internet that that's what you should say, but maybe that's not what you should say, because
I couldn't do it.
Really causing a scene here.
I couldn't do it.
And
We
now,
went-
now I'm not that strict anymore. Now I don't even ask. Just give me my steak and I'm going to be happy.
we went and tried this place up in Stephenville. They call it modern Texas cuisine, which basically means they take they take good old Texas food and they add something fancy to it. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But anyhow, we went up there for brunch, and the only thing they had there that I was willing to eat was an omelet. And I'm like you, Amy. I'm abstaining from dairy right now. But I decided, what the heck? This is the only thing I can eat. I'll just go ahead and eat the omelet with some cheese in it and be done with it. I'll go off plan for that one day. And the waiter comes out. Like I said, it's a fancy place. They're super nice. Do anything in the world for you. And so I told the old boy, I says, hey, could you do me a favor? Could you possibly have my omelet cooked in butter, please? I would appreciate it. And he says, oh, well, are you allergic? And my brother-in-law is sitting right across from me. He says, only in his mind. and I said, yeah, I'm allergic in that I avoid all seed oils. And then, you know, he said, well, let me check. And he went back, and I felt bad. I says, well, now I'm kind of lying to him, and I don't want to lie. You know, lying's a sin. I don't want to lie. So he comes back, and I said, I just want to let you know, I'm really not allergic. I was just kind of funny. Yeah, I just avoid certain things, and I prefer just animal fats. He goes, well, no worries, sir. They always cook the omelets in butter. So I just wanted to let you know. And I said, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But I'm sorry. I just can't lie to him and say that I'm allergic. I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather just tell him the truth. I would prefer not to.
Like that.
Yeah. No, I get it. Conduct yourself honestly in all things. So.
Yeah.
All righty.
Yeah. My conscience got the better of me.
Yeah.
It was Sunday and the Holy Spirit was talking to me.
Let's see here. We did that one. I wonder if meat aversion could be solved by fasting until you are super hungry and not allowing yourself to eat anything else. And then I think the meat would be satisfying. Maybe.
I know meat tastes better to me when I've been fasting.
Yeah.
The flavor of it is just that much more enhanced for me.
That I mean, I think there's a part of this is true. I mean, like when you were a kid and you can't leave the table till you finish your food, you know, or you're not getting anything else.
Right.
This is what I made tonight. And it's like, you know what, when you get hungry enough, you will eat it. So there is some truth to that.
That's how they forced me to eat vegetables.
Yeah. Alexa says food addiction and emotional eating are real. Oh yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I'm an addict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why I eat the way I eat now.
So, and you know, and I, you know, I'm carnivore most of the time. I break form once in a while. And sometimes when I do, that's when the cravings come back. Cause it's like, oh man, yeah, that was pretty tasty. I could have more of that. And then I got to discipline myself. Like, nope, can't do it. I can treat myself once in a while, but you know, the last thing I want to do is end up back on the ground, off the wagon, you know, or where I was 3 years ago. And then this is a good comment from Jeff. I hope you realize, Lexi, that all this advice just shows how much we love you. Absolutely. You know, we want to help you in any way, shape, or form. So, you know, if you want to, if you know, you say that there's a certain point that you're going to hit that you might take the GLP-1. All we're saying is let's try not to hit that point. Let's do something now about it. You know, you also mentioned you come back from Bible study. And I always say, I always say, eat what God or nature provided. Okay, so try and make a connection between the two. All right. What did people eat in ancient times? You know, meat, some fruits, and some vegetables. You know, but what did they have? What did they not have back in Bible times? Snickers, Doritos.
Candy.
You know. and the glyphosate sprayed grains, the grains were different back then too, you know, so there's
Totally different grains.
totally different grains,
Mhm.
you know, so, you know, stick to what's natural, you know, and stay away from what's unnatural, because that's the trap. That's the trap. That's the addiction, and it's intentional too. Okay, this world, okay, and big food manufacturers, they intentionally try and create these things so that they are addictive and that you can't stop munching, and you can't stop going back, and that when the bag's empty or when the box is empty, you don't even feel comfortable going to bed until you've gone to the store and bought one and have it in your pantry, just knowing that it's there. You know, that's all addiction, you know, and it's all by design.
These food scientists have the upper hand. They've had the upper hand.
Yeah.
And in 1914, when Nabisco came out with the Oreo cookie, the cookie came from Hydrox. They stole it. Okay, they took the formula from Hydrox. They hired their engineer, whatever, food processor, but the white filling, was designed to go with milk. This tastes really good with milk, and that's the history of the Oreo cookie. They knew what they were doing, and they knew that over 100 years ago. 100 years ago.
Yeah, all by design. The Bible calls meat solid food. So, well, there was an illustration there. So you ought to be like, you know, solid food, not like those who need milk again. So, you know, it's talking about spiritual maturity there. I know what you're referencing though. But
Hey guys, I'm gonna sign off in effort to get to bed at a decent time tonight.
It's not decent. I never stayed this late ever.
So we usually
I
end at
get up
11.
at 4.
Yeah, we usually end at 11, and if you need to bail, go
Really?
ahead. Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
thought
bail
y'all
just
were
because.
finished at 10.
Ladies, it's been a great talk.
yeah,
Thank you very
We
much. all
really
of you.
enjoyed having y'all here.
yeah. We really appreciate
Thank you.
you
Thanks for
jumping on.
summoning
Thank
me
you.
out of my funk. I have not had a snack tonight, and I don't plan on having a snack. So you guys maybe saved me from my snackiness. So thank you.
All right.
Very
Well, I
well.
hope we helped turn the day around,
appreciate
and,
it.
and the sun's gonna set for you in more of
You
a happy
did.
state. All right.
I needed this. Yes, I feel better. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
All right.
Good
Good night,
night.
Amy.
But
And
and the other
bye-bye.
Amy is going to leave too.
all right. Good night, other Amy. Thanks for
Thank you. This was
night,
awesome.
y'all.
Thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
thanks for coming in and sharing your your story with your type 1 diabetes and being part of our theme tonight. We really appreciate it.
You
Well,
added
you're very
value
welcome.
tonight.
I enjoyed it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You added good value. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care. All right. Let's see here.
I don't know how
And
to get out of here.
are you on a
Maybe
phone?
that.
I think you just.
No, it's not going away.
Are you on a computer?
I am
or-
on a iPad.
Okay. Is there like an exit button along the bottom? My laptop
Oh, here
has
we
an
go.
exit bottom
I
on the
think
bottom.
maybe. Nope.
I always thought you just closed the browser window.
I don't.
Yeah. So I've got on
No.
my laptop, I have buttons at the bottom for like, there's my microphone button, my camera button, my share screen button, my settings button. And then there's a button that's kind of got like a peach hue to it. And it's an arrow in a box. And that's the leave button.
Yeah, same on my computer.
I'm still looking. I don't know.
Do you
I don't
see any
think I'll
buttons at
ever
all?
get.
Maybe you got to touch your screen and you turned your camera off. So
Oh.
that worked.
There, she
all
found
right.
it.
just keep pushing those
Be
buttons.
gone, woman.
Keep pushing buttons. She found a way. All right. Okay, let's see here.
I'm glad you had her on tonight.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm glad she joined.
I've watched like 4 interviews of her last week. Very, very good.
All right.
I even noticed Kilt's dropped in for a moment.
There he is, right there. There we are. I said last chance to join us on screen, and there he is.
Well, I just got in from Florida up to New York,
Mhm.
and it was I'm playing for my live, and then I was like, okay, I'm in my office. I'm actually sleeping in my office. Sometimes I sleep in my office depending on my travels. And I was like, I opened up my computer, you guys were there. So I thought, all right, I gotta say hi.
All right.
Glad you dropped in, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's good. I got to catch Amy and Amy, and it looks like it was a good meet up tonight.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
great.
It was excellent.
Yeah, it was very,
Actually
very
stayed
nice.
on topic for a good long while.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
we
good.
made a point of starting, and we made a point of being on topic when we started, because we have a tendency to come up with a topic, and then we find ourselves chatting for an hour and a half, and then we're like, oh yeah, we had a topic tonight. We should probably get to it.
What was the topic? I mean, I literally,
Yeah.
I was
Managing
on the plane.
diabetes on a carnivore diet. Yeah.
And
We have a lot of
Amy's the expert on
diabetics.
it.
Yeah, we have a lot of diabetics on here. Paul is our resident diabetic, and we just felt like this was a good topic to do tonight, where we can get a lot of participation, a lot of insight,
My sister Marianne had type 1 diabetes since age 4. She died at 52, 20 years ago. And I look back at it, it's obviously, knew nothing about any of this stuff. And, it was just a matter of the standard stuff and just covering it with insulin. And that seemed to be the thing. So, Papa Carnivore, how you doing? It's good to see family.
He's been with us all night.
Well, my problem is because I'm usually in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock. And because I get up at 3 to 4 usually.
Yeah, you're an early riser.
Yeah, I'm crazy. I'm crazy. So, but it's like every time I was like, oh, Bob's on. I got to check it out. And you guys are always so good and good people, and we're all good family. But yeah, so my sister was one of the reason that really inspired me, and recognize that the old diet for type 1s before insulin was essentially carnivore.
Yeah, I'm getting tired, so my thoughts are getting tongue tied here at night as it gets later. I have a collection of books. They're all digital right now, of course, but they go back to the 1700s and the 1800s, where they talk about diabetes and how the cure for diabetes was a meat diet. So it's interesting to me how this information isn't necessarily new. It's been around for a while, and it's just, but it's always seems to be squashed, squandered, swept under the rug, or overshadowed by mainstream medicine, and only in recent times is it really starting to kind of gain traction and get out there now, probably thanks to the internet. So
I wonder how many of those people were able to live a reasonably longer time, how long they lived on that animal-based diet, the meat-based diet, and maybe it was the type 1.5. Is it the 1.5 diabetics that have one and have two a little bit?
Yes.
And maybe more of those with the type 2s that were kind of moving to type 1.
Yeah, that's the ones they call the LADA, type 1.5 diabetes.
Yeah. I'd be interested to look at some of those books, Bob, because I'm always want to dig in to really understand what they were, what they're really doing. And but this
in the last 6 months, I went to I moved, so I had a new primary care physician. It's the first meeting with this doctor. And I was 69 years old. They said, well, you're pipe dreaming about an A1C of 5.6. You need to accept the fact you're going to be 7 to 8 from now on. That's the range for you. And that's your life from here on out. And I thought, like, who in the world does this doctor think they are that they could talk to me like that? That was kind of I just went silent, and I said, I'm not going to argue with him, Not a good battle.
I wish more people would think like that. Who are you to talk to me like that?
And, well, there was, I don't know where I saw it, but it was I've been watching I've been watching Baker interview diabetics. And he does, like I say, he does a great interview. And he interviewed this guy whose doctor was monitoring his blood sugars, and he had a 5.7, a 5.9, a 6.1, a 6.2. And finally he got to 6.5 where he was full diabetic, no longer pre-diabetic. And finally the doctor told him. He didn't know what an AC1 was or where it was in trouble or what. And so he finally asked the doctor, why did you wait so long, The doctor says, well, didn't really have an answer, And he says, well, I just quit going to the doctor. If he didn't care enough about me when I was at a 5.7, why would he care me when I'm 7.7, And doctors like that ought to be taken out, and somebody ought to give them a good hard punch right in the chops. Knock them right flat out of the can. That's what they deserve.
I had a patient today that is on carnivore and working to get pregnant, and her OBGYN said, I won't take care of you if you're on carnivore diet. Yeah, and I wanted to do that.
Man.
I won't take care of you if that. I don't know. That's right away. Then I'm in the market for a new doctor, and if I hear any kind of talk like that, I'll still be in the market. I'll just move right on to that one.
Something I find amazing, Dr. Kiltz, is okay. So I had a heart condition. It's reversed, thanks to carnivore. But it was funny. My primary care physician was always trying to push me onto a statin because my higher LDL. And he didn't like the way I ate. And yet my cardiologist absolutely loved what I was doing. He didn't care about my LDL. He cared about the results I was getting from my diet and reducing the inflammation, which healed my heart. And he loved it. And he loved it to the point that he took me off all my medication in a year's time. And I'm now 69 years old. I'm on no medication for my heart. I have no more palpitations. I've totally reversed paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, but it just seems strange. Here my PCP was all up in arms, and yet my cardiologist, the man taking care of my heart, he's the one that just absolutely loves what I did through changing my lifestyle. He was just absolutely flabbergasted. And he says he wishes more of his patients could do this. I said, well, doc, steer them in my direction. Steer them in the direction that I go.
My cardiologist, because I had CAC scar, did all this stuff, and he wanted to put me on a statin, but he was okay if I didn't. And he refers me patients for carnivore now.
That's great. That's great.
It is good. There are some open docs out there, and it's beginning to open up.
They want to sit there and say, and we know it's all false, but they want to say, well, there's no long-term studies, blah, blah, blah. We are the studies. This is why I tell people, don't lie to your doctor. Be honest with your doctor. Let him document exactly what you're doing, because you are the study.
Absolutely.
And you're 69 and I'm 69. These are long-term studies.
Bingo. Exactly. Yeah, Paul's 69 too. We're all 69. Bob's a youngster here. He's
Bob's a baby.
Yeah. Just a little 50-year-old kid here.
Yeah.
You know the thing I've recognized with my carnivore diet over the years? I can now tolerate very low blood sugar. My CGM will go down to 40, and I feel just fine. Okay.
Mine does the same, and I feel great.
Yep. And I've even done I've got another one, the finger stick thing. I yanked that out, and one time I was down to 40, and it came up 45 on the finger stick. Then it went off. It just said low. So I don't know what it was. I did a finger stick, and I was 40, and I felt just fine. You know, I wrote down my phone number, my social security number, my address. I was fine. That may be just maybe you can tolerate lower blood sugar on a carnivore diet.
Well, I think so. I think so because because the withdrawal, the low sugars were sort of our addicted withdrawal, and so now you don't have that addictive withdrawal. I think, quite commonly 40. I don't think low sugars are really the problem for those of us who are already been doing carnivore keto for a while, and your system is no longer, even like I'm pretty good off coffee now, but I'm having a little bit. But at one point it was like, oh, I got to have it, and I think it's those addictions in the peaks and valleys that the sugar levels before, but don't need it.
All right. Someone had a question for you. It's off topic for us, but if you want, you can answer it if you want. Explain your comment about Warburg and Krebs in your live yesterday. I didn't see it, so I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, I was making a comment about whether their science is hard metabolic truth. Because Warburg and Krebs were basically in the time of Rockefeller money, and the science really has always been controlled by some money in some way, and I think that they, like everyone else, and especially I know that Otto Warburg. I mean, he was a very prestige and success was important to him. And so these are science is theoretical anyway. And I was just making a comment that why do we accept that metabolic formulas as absolute truth? We don't know that they are. And that was really my comment that they were under the influence of the same thing science today is influenced by. No different.
Well, it's constantly changing, isn't it? As we discover new things.
Well, but then if everything's constantly changing, how can you rely on anything I tell you today?
Exactly.
Except the Bible, the biblical stories, the spiritual stories, I think have more power than anything. But that was my point.
All righty.
I took a Bible study class with a woman she's from the Middle East somewheres, but she spoke Arabic or some foreign language, and she had a Bible that was written in Arabic or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And her interpretation of the Bible was so different than anybody else's. And she goes, well, she goes, in my language, she was very good at English too. And she goes, it makes perfect sense to me. And she would explain, and I thought, oh, wow. She's closer to the real meaning than us who've had translations or interpretations. And then she went on to explain things about life in the time of Jesus. And I thought, oh my God, this woman knows a lot of stuff, and I think it was something about you never take a man's millstone. And they actually ground wheat. And she understood this. They ground it by hand on a table. They had two stones.
Yeah.
It was like a modern day mill, but they did it by hand on a table.
Manually, yeah. Yeah. That's what a millstone is, yeah.
And so if you took one of the millstones as collateral for a debt, you were committing a sin because you were taking away their food. They couldn't grind their grain in the morning and make their bread. And this was all very clear to her. And I was just scratching my head. I go, what? And she explained it, and she could explain it so clearly. And she was reading, in a different language in her Bible. And she was, I see, she's a very bright individual. She had great command of the English language. And I go, oh, okay, thank you. Now I understand.
As Deuteronomy 24:6, it was in the old Mosaic law. Do not take a millstone as collateral for a loan. So
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Now this woman, so it's not that an Arabic translation is any better than like an English translation. It's still a translation into their common tongue, but maybe she understood it in Arabic better because Arabic was her mother tongue.
Maybe.
So maybe she reads it, if she reads the Bible in Arabic, she gets more out of it than if she tried to read it in English because English isn't her mother tongue. That might be what was happening there. So
she was a very bright individual at any rate.
Because you read something in your mother tongue, if you're bilingual or multilingual, if you read something in your mother tongue, it's going to resonate. It's going to touch your heart more than in a language you had to learn later in life.
Yeah.
So.
And so if you took the stone, you took away their source of food, essentially.
It says the verse literally says that would be taking a person's livelihood as security. So yeah.
That'd be like taking my smoker away from me.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
A lot of countries still operate in a third world level. And I met a missionary. She went on a mission to an agricultural mission to El Salvador, teach them how to be more productive in growing crops. And she actually ground corn with like a round stone on a kind of like a U-shaped stone. The corn would go in and you roll the stone back and forth and grind it and push it back and forth to make corn flour out of. And I said, you did what? He goes, that's how we ate. I go, oh my God.
So, a little bit of a story similar to that. So, I went up to Paladera Canyon here. It's probably been 10, maybe 15 years ago. And a buddy of mine wanted to go up there and he wanted to go ride the Paladera. So we took our horses up there, me and my wife and my buddy. And he was meeting with a friend, this woman who they had both been through grief counseling together. And they'd become very good friends through this. So we stayed with them or with her. Anyways, they had arranged with a cowboy that works on one of the 3 ranches that own the Paladera, that are in the Paladera Canyon. Now, the Paladera Canyon is a canyon up in the panhandle of Texas, up by Amarillo. And this was the last major Indian cavalry battle that was fought. This is the one that sent Quanah Parker and his band of Indians to the reservation. This is the last one. This is the one that defeated them. It happened up there in Paladera. And this was their wintering home. They would hunker down in the Paladera Canyon, and that was their winter home to keep away from the rough winters of the plains up there. So we've got this old cowboy that works on one of the 3 ranches that divide the Paladera. And there's a state park there too, but this is at the other end of it. Anyhow, he's going to take us down the same trail that Colonel Kinsey went down when he went into the canyon to defeat the Comanches. And it's a treacherous trail. And they led their horses down at night, or it was actually very early in the morning. It took them most of the night to get their horses down that canyon, down the canyon walls, to surprise the Indians and attack them and drive them out of the canyon. But we got to go down it in daylight. And Me and the cowboy we were the only ones that were able to make it all the way down on horseback. My wife and my buddy, they ended up having to walk their horses down because it was just it was treacherous, but it was a blast, quite an adventure. So, anyways, so we're in there, and he's taking us around to the battle site and where all their encampments were at, and he says, "I'm going to show you something I've never shown anybody else. And you've got to promise you'll never let anybody else know about this." You know, speaking of the university up there, because the university has gone in there many times and, you know, inspected the battlegrounds and scoped it out and done metal detection and everything. He says, "I've never shown this to them." He said, "But I want to show you something." He takes us to this small mesa. And in the mesa, you see these black charcoal lines spotted throughout the mesa. And he says, "You know what those are?" And I said, "No, I don't." He says, "Those are campfires. That is campfires, and that's the sediment that was built up on them." And then he eroded back down. Just shows you how long they had been camping in the Palo Duro, all these centuries. And he says, "Now I want to show you something." And we walk up this trail around this mesa, and we get not quite to the top. It's about 2/3 of the way to the top. And sitting there is exactly what you just described. There is a large rock. It's dished out, and sitting in that dished out space was another rock sitting inside of it that perfectly fit that dished out area. And that is where they ground their corn. That's where they made their masa. And it's been there. And I says, "So why have you never told the university about this?" He says, "Because they'll take it and put it in a museum, and it doesn't belong there. It belongs right here. This is where they used it for hundreds of thousands of years. This is where it needs to stay." And that was just so cool. So cool to see something like that. And it's in where it had been used for a long time.
Yeah. I wonder how long they were grinding the wild corn or the grains and things like that, because you got to imagine that, you know, that there was something that drove them to grind it up.
Yeah.
And rather than just eating the seeds and things like that, it's
you
very
know,
fascinating.
I would assume, and it's just an assumption on my part, that it was you know, they couldn't, you can't eat dried corn. The only way you can preserve corn is to dry it. You can't eat it dry, you know. So it's like any wheat or anything like that. To utilize it, you're going to have to grind it up into a flour.
Yeah.
And
That's a good point.
what was beautiful is I don't think you could have got a dollar bill in between the grinding stone and the base rock. The fit was so perfect from all the years of doing that grinding. They had just meshed together, you know, like the pyramids, you know, just so perfectly fit together. It was amazing. It's pretty cool.
Well, listen, gentlemen, I'm so glad I was able to come on with you, and always a pleasure. So thanks for bringing me in. I'm gonna get some Z's.
Get some Z's.
So I get up early enough to do our live tomorrow.
All right. Get
You're
some
always
shut-eye.
welcome, Buck.
Thanks
All
for
right,
joining.
thanks, guys. All right, take care.
Thank you.
Good night, sir.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much.
So the corn you eat off the cob, because like regular corn, you can go out, you can pick it, you can eat it. It's edible.
That's
okay.
sweet corn. Yeah.
Yeah. Now is that different from corn
Yes.
that's used for processing?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, that's the
And-
corn that
and
has
like
such
I
a hard, dry hull that you
So,
have to.
yeah, but that's dried on purpose because it's the only way you can preserve it.
Mhm.
There's
And that's
usually
usually-
3 different types of corn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got feed
No.
corn.
The sweet corn has been so bred, hybridized. They've got 5 different sugar levels of it now. It's just pure sugar.
Yeah.
And so corn's an amazing thing. And we think of corn as a stalk with ears on it. You go over to England, corn's a totally different crop. It looks more
Well, they don't
like
even eat it. It's animal food.
Huh?
It's animal feed
Yeah,
to
I mean-
them. They don't even eat it. They think
it
we're
doesn't
weird.
even-
Why are you eating cow food?
It looks more like a field of oats.
Mhm. Yeah, they don't
It doesn't
understand
look
it at
like
all.
it doesn't look like corn at all. And but some of the corns, there's a guy in I think he was in South Dakota, and he had a plot of corn. It was 7 acres. He walked through it, and he found 7 red stalks. Had a red tint to them. Oh, this is something special. So he sealed off the tassels and the silks, and then hand pollinated it. And he harvested he only had 12 or 13 years of corn. And it turns out when they tested it, it was extremely high protein.
Hmm.
So he planted it, isolated it, and started building the seed. Eventually, he hired other people to grow it. And I can't remember what it's called anymore, but I used to keep up on all that stuff. But I don't eat the stuff anymore, so why bother?
No, you're right though that sweet corn just being pure sugar. So we got relatives up in Colorado on my wife's side that are farmers up there, mostly wheat farmers. And but we stopped in Greeley to visit some relatives, and they were corn farmers down there. And he says I'm gonna give you a treat, best corn you ever eat. And he says, I promise you won't even need butter on it. It's so sweet. And he was right. It was like it was as if somebody had taken and mixed sugar with butter and spread on it. It was so sweet, which was, it was absolutely delicious, because corn is one of the only vegetables I ever did like, and then that just enhanced it. Of course, I would, like I said, I wouldn't eat it now. And I agree with the English that corn is nothing but cattle feed. And technically we shouldn't even be feeding it to the cattle.
Now called candy cotton.
Yeah.
Candy cotton corn. It's that sweet.
You've seen those pictures of what corn used to look like thousands of years ago before humans bred it to become the things that it is today, right?
Well, natural seed selection has been practiced by farmers for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a neighbor down in North Carolina. His father had grown limber twig corn. It was a white corn, big ears, right? And every year they'd grow 2 or 3 acres just for cornmeal. That's all they grew it for. And they would find the biggest ears they could find in the field, like a couple bushel, and they'd be very careful, dry them out very thoroughly, shell it all out on a great big sheet of plywood, and sort through the kernel, only select the biggest kernels there was. Well, after his father doing that for 40 years and him doing it for 40 years, 80 years down the road, they had these corn seeds that were huge. So big that it would get stuck in the planter. So they had to pull the seed disc off the planter and re-notch it. They put a bigger notch in it to handle the bigger seed. Well, this guy, he had his own mill, own stone mill. It was all rotted. He rebuilt all the wood and powered it with his tractor. And he knew how to grind stuff without overheating the grain. If you grind too fast, you add heat to it and you start putting rancidity into the grain. And immediately upon grinding, it'd go in a 1 gallon bag, which was about 3 pounds of cornmeal, and go right in a deep freeze. And he had 3 deep freezers out there in the shed. And it was the best cornmeal I'd ever had in my entire life. And being a carboholic and a foodaholic, it was wonderful, but it's all gone. Just a memory. If I had it right now, it wouldn't taste as good. It wouldn't match my memory. I know that.
All right. So let's see here. I think that's it for me.
Yeah.
We're
already.
we're
You got to the end, huh? Okay, good.
yeah. Yeah. No, we schedule this till 10:30. We typically go to 11 anyway, but now it's 11:15. So,
Yep.
and I'm
All right,
sitting
good
here
night, everyone.
yawning. People are making comments in the comments about my yawns. So,
Yeah, like Bill says, it's time to throw the corn and baked potatoes out. Let's throw them
Yeah.
out.
All right. So, thanks to everyone who joined us on screen tonight. It was a pleasure speaking to everybody. We're glad to hear the experiences for those who have had diabetes and have been working at managing that diabetes with a carnivore diet. We talked about why a carnivore diet is beneficial. Really, we only addressed on the blood sugar and the keeping the carbohydrates low, but there's some secondary reasons too. Weight loss as being one of them. But it's definitely, a win-win. So don't listen to the American Diabetes Association. That's the ones that will tell you to eat caramel apple pie if you're diabetic. Don't do that. Instead, listen to the American Diabetes Society. It's a new organization founded by smart people like Dr. Barry and Dr. Hampton and some others who are actually making waves by helping people reverse their diabetes, their type 2 diabetes specifically. And thanks to everyone in the chat who kept the discussion lively tonight. It's nice to see you trying to eagerly help each other out when it comes to advice, when it comes to diet and our struggles and whatnot. We're here for you, and we're glad that you've been here for us. So we love you all, and we want you all to have a good night. As far as announcements go, if you heard me last week talk about how the website had crashed, I have it fixed. So actually had some malware on there. I had to buy an antivirus software and clean it up. So the website is fixed. So join us there throughout the week, carnivoretalk.com. And of course, consider joining us again next Monday night when we have another exciting topic and a panel to discuss that. So good night, everybody. We love you. Sweet dreams. Catch some Z's.
Thank you very much.
Good night, y'all.
Bye.